All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night. Royval versus Kape, ending the year, the season, and the era of broadcasting on ESPN. And to do all of that with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, the Ohio player, a man who would never jiggle his man titties when he wins a fight. Chase Parton, how you doing, brother?
Dude, I am really, really good. Like, absolutely. We had fights on Saturday. It is Monday. We get to talk about them. And this is actually, talk about a moment in time for the podcast. We get to talk about the finale of ESPN pay-per-views. Like this is it. This is the not, pay-per-views, not this one, but pay-per-views as a whole, we're not getting them anymore. We're getting PLEs, whatever you want to say. Paramount Plus is coming, a lot of new things to just think about, and I'm just very excited for it.
Yeah, a whole lot marking, with this event, really, a decent one, I would say, but really the impact of what it means to the sport is interesting right now. Like you said, the end of pay-per-views for the foreseeable future, at the very
Mhm.
least, a transition to a new broadcast partner. It was also the Fight Like Hell event with the cancer awareness, which is always kind of an emotional time for a lot of people when it comes to how they present the broadcasts and all of that. So a lot contained within this one fight night here, and by extension for the show. So definitely an exciting time to be on with you and with all of you guys hanging out with us in the chat. Thank you for being here early. If you are new to the show, we're going over each and every fight on this card. And since we don't have, we're coming into MMA winter after this now, so we're not going to have another card to talk about for a little while. Maybe we'll just be able to chat with you about some things. So if there's anything that you want to talk about not pertaining to the fight that we're talking about at the moment, put it in the chat. We'll probably come back to it at the end of this program.
And speaking of the chat, I want you guys to give yourself pat on the back, round of applause, whatever you want to do, because you guys have been here the entire year. And there's some people who, when I say you guys, you know who you are. You're listening right now. You've been here since the first card of the year, probably even before. So think about where we've been, where we are now, and where we're heading. This is just great things coming. You guys are a big part of it. Appreciate all the support. Seriously, big things coming, big
Yeah.
things.
As I say it on the watch longs often, the people who have been here now, I mean, you and I have been doing this show for a year and a half, almost going on 2 years, coming up in a little while, not too long from now. The people who have been here this early are the OGs of Yama, of last week's fights. And as this thing grows, as we would like it to, know that you guys are the ones that really are propelling that to happen. So as Chase said, we're extremely grateful for all of the support and, great things coming in the future because of you guys being there for us. So we appreciate it.
To know, I actually did not say the word grateful. I'm not extremely grateful. I'm beyond grateful, everybody. Think about that right there.
Two levels above and beyond, indeed. Absolutely. I appreciate that from you, Chase. All right. Well, that all
Absolutely.
being said, let's talk a little bit about this card, I suppose. I mean, there's a whole lot of other stuff going on in the sport always. As you might know, we do the Friday shows where we kind of recap the week and everything. So maybe we can talk about some of the other things a little bit later, but there's a lot to talk about with this. So I'd say that we should probably just jump right into this. What do you think?
I mean, if you're ready to jump right into Chase being right, we can do that. So,
Well, we'll see about all of that. But, to start this off, this is UFC Fight Night Royval versus Kape. This took place at the UFC Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. As we have already said, this was the last card to be broadcast on ESPN and ESPN Plus, marking the official end of the ESPN era. And it was the annual Cancer Awareness Fight Like Hell event. So, going into that, all of that being said, Chase, what was your initial impression of this card?
I mean, it's an Apex card. These cards deliver and people don't really seem to catch it. You always get those tweets. It's like, man, I would have loved to have this finish in front of a crowd. It's like, well, you saw it. A lot of other people on social media saw it. It may not be the way you want it or where it was at, but hey, we get good finishes when people don't have the bright lights on them. That's just the way it goes. And I think Dana kind of gets it now. So,
Well, yes, yeah. To that point, I'm very glad that you said it that way because we did just get word here. This is something a little outside of this card, but very important to note that coming up, I believe, with the start of the next Apex card. I think that they're already going to be having the transition. That's probably why the 6 weeks is happening the way that it is, in addition to holidays and all of that. But we've gotten word that the Apex will officially be expanding and selling tickets to the public now. So about somewhere in the ballpark of 1,000 seats is the expansion number, and tickets will be sold like any other sporting event. So coming up, when you say, "Oh, these Apex events, it would have been nice in front of a crowd," have a little bit of a crowd coming up perhaps here now.
You know what I think is also interesting, and I don't know if you remember, and I believe we would have talked about this on the pod because I don't think it was years ago, but or I mean, it was a handful of years ago because they definitely had to take some time to do it. There was word that the Apex was going under some renovations, and a
Yes.
lot of people were speculating what that was going to be. Oh, more parking lot garages. Is Dana getting a bigger office? What's going on here? So this is obviously the answer of what we were getting here.
Indeed, yeah, absolutely, and I would say a net positive in the big picture here, especially if they're going to continue using the Apex. A lot of people have mixed feelings about the Apex. Oh, it's in Vegas, it's not accessible to the broader scale of people. This and that. You want it on the road, you want it in front of crowds in multiple cities and places, and all this. I think that it kind of accomplishes both things in my estimation. You get a solid stream of events now. It's the home base, so to speak. It will have crowds, and you can still have all of your shows all over the place, because what we've been seeing too, all these overseas events, that's also taking away from your domestic events, so to speak. I mean, we just had Qatar and other places in the Middle East, and and I'm happy. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing personally. I think it's great. Take it as many places as you can, but if you're going to have it divided to begin with, then I think that having a home base that is accessible to the public is also a positive thing.
I think what's interesting, and Beeb said it right there. I'd rather attend an Apex event over a major UFC card. I would too. I don't like that many people around me. A handful of thousand is cool. It's very dispersed, and these are obviously going to be a lot more selective and probably more pricey of tickets when you get to these smaller, individual events like this. But I definitely love the Apex idea to go as like a fan, like a true fan, like Theo Vaughn. Like, hell yeah, let him just sit front row at every Apex, like, shit like that. Um, but what else? I don't know.
I,
I
I
think
was
I
just
think
going
it's
to ask.
awesome. Yeah, go
My,
ahead.
my my question was, what are the prices going to be like? That's what I'm curious about, because you say sit front row. I mean, the Apex, even with 1,000 seats, I mean, depending on how they lay it out, we'll have to see what that looks like. But it's going to be front row pretty much. I mean, like, just regardless of where you're sitting in there, it's a great seat. I mean, even if you are a little ways back in a place like that, 1,000 seats, it's not very big. So, um, you know, I'm curious what the pricing is going to be like, and how is it going to be tiered like that, whatever. Like, what's the actual arrangement going to be for the fans?
The similarities that I take away here, and obviously, the UFC partner with TKO. I'm going to go back to WWE Pro Wrestling one more time. They have a performance center, and they do a decent amount of people that go to their in-house events. The UFC could definitely have a draw to these events if they just open the doors. People are just walking around in Las Vegas and they're like, "Holy shit, fights are on! I might as well go if I can do it." I mean, that's better than the big old triangle that they got over there. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of, questions that will be answered over time, but I think some positive steps in the right direction for some of this stuff. And yeah, I mean, another nice way to transition into the Paramount era, which still has a lot of questions about that need to be answered. So all of these things will be revealed in due time, but that's all for the future, Chase. This is the now, and let's get into the fights on this card here.
Let's do that.
Yeah. Well, actually, I don't know. Did you have to actually answer the question as to what you thought
No.
about this card?
Uh, what did I think about this card initially? I mean, go
Initially, yeah.
initially Apex. I'm
Oh,
thinking
right,
we're
right.
gonna get sleepers. We're gonna get sleepers, but not necessarily gonna be. These are going to be the needle movers kind of deal, in my opinion. But people are going to act like they're just overlooked when I'm clearly watching people do great things. But then when my afterthoughts, what did I think of this was a decent card. This was fine. Another
Sure.
Apex. I mean, come on, guys. You can
Yeah.
never go wrong with just fights at the Apex. I for real think that.
Absolutely, and to just to piggyback off of that, my own thoughts were that I think that it almost got inverted because I thought that the main event it was going to be a crazy banger. Turned out that there were a couple of other banger fights on this card, and the main event was what it was. So we will get into all of that, of course. So let's start off
Yeah.
by doing that with the first fight of the evening. This was Jamie Lynn Horth versus Teresa Bleda, and I shouted Chase Parton out immediately when this fight concluded, saying that your theory. I don't know how you had this galaxy brain take, Chase, early on, because this is going back now a couple of weeks here, if not months. But you said the UFC knows to put banger fights, ladies' fights specifically, as the start of the cards. And I mean, this was not necessarily a knockdown, drag out war like some of them were, but certainly a beautiful performance of striking from Jamie Lynn Horth.
Yeah, I really don't know what it is about the UFC and about women specifically that are understanding this assignment. Because literally, we've seen handfuls of time they put heavyweights as the first fight of the night, and it's the worst fight you've ever seen. And and I'm not even exaggerating because and it's not even untrue because you can see in this card alone, like there's other heavyweights that are god awful. Like it's continuing to be, but you put random flyweight women and they just come out here and put on fucking bangers. And not even like this was a banger. I mean, listen, it was a great performance for Jamie Lynn Horth. And I did not think she was going to come out here and do it instantly. I thought this was going to be, I thought she was going to have to work for this. I thought Bledo was going to be a little more durable. And then, we're going to get a later of a finish. But Jamie Lynn Horth, listen, everybody in the Discord, shout out the MMA Hive, but they doubted me. They all said, "What do you see? Like she's garbage. Like do you not see her record? Like are you not seeing this right now?" And you know, I am somebody who I trust what I see. Jamie Lynn Horth, she may look like Jar Jar Binks. I've heard this a lot, but she is very very talented and she showed it on Saturday. She showed
Oh,
it.
now I can't unsee it. But no, it's funny that you say that though, because when everybody is saying that about Horth, that was my to a T exact assessment of what their opinions were of Bleda. I was
Yeah.
like, where is this coming from? All of this praise for Bleda. She's 1-1 in the organization at the time, coming off maybe off, I guess, the contender series. But as we've said, you cannot judge off of the contender series in any meaningful way. So this, and also off of a 2-year layoff. That's another thing that we didn't talk about. But yeah, Bleda coming in after a long layoff, unclear as to why that was. But this is what you get, I suppose. And it just was surprising to me that there was so much stock being placed in her and not in Horth, who we have seen consistently.
Yeah, so what I was hearing before the fight started is that Bledo was, she took 2 years off from for some medical condition. So some illness or some sort was keeping her out of the game. So when I heard that, I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm very confident that Jamie Lynn is gonna come out here and dominate." Now, again, I thought it was gonna be a little more grindy. Bleda clearly did not feel it on the feet because she shot very early, but Jamie, oh man, she listen, Bleto's obviously not the best person to judge going forward for Jamie Lynn Horth because she was able to just dispose of her instantly, which for a great fighter, that is exactly what you should have done to somebody who just took 2 years off for some potential illness or disorder, whatever you want to say. It's mixed martial arts, kill or be killed. If you want to advance, that's how you do it. You walk in there and you put her, dude, Jamie Lynn Horth. I know people hate Canadians. I know they don't like women, but dude, she's good and she's a good striker. And if the takedown defense holds up, I mean, at flyweight, listen, Pleto, the size was 5'6" to 5'9" is what the tail of the tape said. Did not look it, but if she's the tallest opponent, I mean, she got rid of her, and Jamie Lynn Horth is massive compared to everybody else. So
Well,
anybody else wanted to take a step, we got it.
yeah, no, absolutely. Well, two things. First of all, let's dispel one thing right here, right now, because we've got great Canadian friends and a great love of Canada. So I don't know what people you're talking about. Canada all day long. First of all, second of all, you're absolutely correct about the size. Horth was huge compared to Bleda. I mean, like you saw, especially when she was attacking the single leg, this non-existent single leg that she was keeping on for a long, long time. You could see that Horth was holding her base because she could. She had so much size on her, and then once she broke, it was just the solid hands and no defense for Bleda. Like, get your hands up. I mean, like Chad had said that at one point it looked like there may have been a lower body injury for Bleda, which was a little bit strange because there was really nothing that should have led to that. I watched it back specifically looking for that on the rewatch. there didn't appear to me to be anything like that. All I saw was that she was holding her knees at the end of the fight, but it looked like she was just exhausted from getting punched in the face. That's just being charitable to Bleda. Really, what it looked like was Horth just going in and doing the damn job.
All right, I'm actually about to break my own heart here because I was going to use this for fuel later, but I actually wasn't even 100%. So a picture did come out of a woman's knee in a red fight kit, and that shit looked jacked the fuck up. That shit looked fucked, and
Are you
it
talking
like
about staff? Or are you talking about because that's
like the bone was like fucking popping out of her, and
oh.
like so when I looked at it,
Hmm.
I said, "Oh, red fight gear." I just saw Melissa Croden lose, and we're gonna talk about it. She was
Sure.
definitely injured. She was definitely injured, of course. No, like obviously. But if you are hearing that it was Bleda the one, I mean, she is also wearing a red fight gear right in this picture. Maybe it was her. I mean, I don't know, but Jamie Lynn Horth fucked her over. So
Yeah, I say then it must have had to have been a very like quick and kind of freak accident sort of situation then, because there was no specific incident that
mhm.
like was definitively, I was, like I said, I was going through like watching for it, and I didn't see anything then.
The knee looked like a shark fin. Like it was like sticking out pointed. Like
Yeah, no, I
it
I mean, if this is the case, then I guess post it in the Discord and we can kind of look it over. But either way, whatever the case may be, this was Bleda. I mean, let me again. I'm not trying to be an asshole about
yeah.
it, but like this,
Mhm.
but Bleda, you talk about how injuries are created by the opponent. Bleda, she was attacking something that wasn't there. Like she was going after the single leg with such conviction after it was very apparent. Like, because I'm always like conscious of saying, like, like, if you see that there is a potential there and you want to be a dog about it, then go for it if it makes sense. But like after a certain point, you have to know when it's right to course correct. And I think that she did not have that instinct to be like, this is not working with a much bigger, solid based opponent. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So I don't know if they're what the how that all equaled up with the potential injury or whatever. Either way, Horth gets the distance. Horth uses the distance to her advantage with some really nice striking, solid striking, heavy shots, and that's all she wrote.
No, absolutely. And Canadian women, they are on top. They really did perform in 2025. I give them that, so
Yeah,
I
well,
love that.
she's apparently from a place called Squamish, which I don't know too much about it, but some of our Canadian listeners were having some opinions about this place, so I'm gonna have to
Oh,
look
okay.
into this.
All right. Well, good deal. Well, if is there anything else on this fight?
No, no, not really. I mean, a solid win for Horth. Keep doing what you're doing with that. Maybe my feelings on Horth might be evolving a little bit. I've always been slightly skeptical of her, but striking like that, if you can pull that off consistently, you're in a good spot with me.
Well, I wanted to bring up no, absolutely, great win from Horth. You
Sure.
deserved it, 100%. Love the knockout. That's exactly what I thought you should do and could do. We failed to bring up that there was a fight cancellation. And
Yes.
speaking of
Yes.
Canadian women, that's why I wanted to roll into that because I think it's a good segue. So go ahead.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad that you mentioned that. Yes, the Amanda Lemos versus Jillian Robertson fight was canceled due to a medical issue with Lemos. I was actually going to make that joke when you're talking about whatever knee it was, or no, when you're talking about Bleda and her layoff being like, quote unquote, a medical issue. I was like, oh, potentially the same medical issue that Lemos had. But yeah, it sucks because this would have been a card where it would have had three women's fights with three Canadian women in them.
Yeah, 100%. I thought that was very interesting because we have so many, we have spots open on Canadian cards, and then Canadian people will fight soon after them. I know this isn't necessarily so soon, but Jamie Lynn Horth has been off for a really long time. Jillian Roberts didn't even fight in Canada, I don't think. She fought the week after, I think, kind of weird shit like that. But actually, just to prove you wrong, Amanda Lemos was not medically injured, like, induced or injured. There was nothing like that. She had a cold sore, unfortunately.
It's still a medical issue. I mean,
Well, but, I think it's funny that she came out and she was like, "Yeah, the doctors, they can't say what it is yet, so they won't let me perform." And I'm like, it's funny that they just, like, won't confirm, like, it's like, it potentially could be AIDS, I don't know, like, it could be something, like, I don't
Wh
know.
what I had seen was I guess she went on Instagram, posted on her
Mhm.
stories or whatever, and was talking about it, and she just had the sore on her
Yeah,
lip. So, I mean, really all she needed to do was just point, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
I know.
Like, but, yeah, no, hey, it happens. Like I said, you're hanging out with Adolfo Bellato. This things like that'll happen. But, whatever. Get well. We'll, that like Adolfo Bellato, it will be rebooked. I think they already confirmed that they want to redo it in like March or something like that. So
Listen, dude, they say that. I have, besides Bellato, name another instance that we've seen fights get rebooked. I don't know. We don't get this very often anymore, and we often lose fights that are bangers. Like, I don't know. It's kind of
well,
crazy.
isn't that the weird thing? It's like sometimes they don't rebook at all, or sometimes they go out of their way to book. Like remember with Rizvan Kuniev and Curtis Blades, right? Wasn't that the
That
one that
one
was
that one, there was another one too that when you said that I was thinking about, but damn,
like they will make certain fights
yeah,
happen like doggedly, and then other fights that I mean, now granted, we're not talking necessarily about like the most highest stakes on some of these fights, so that's why it's interesting that some of them will just go away. Yeah, I mean, will Jillian Robertson fight Amanda Lemos? Maybe, but with Curtis Blades and Rizwan Kuniev, it was
like,
like
no,
we that
he's fucking fighting him. Like, I mean, I don't care what happens. Doesn't matter if it's Abu Dhabi, England, dude, he's coming. He's coming.
for real. So yeah, we'll see what ends up happening there. But I always am very unhappy anytime I am denied a performance from Jillian Robertson because she's
Yeah,
my girl. So
100%. Yeah, definitely.
all right, well, good deal with the ladies there. Let's
Yeah,
move on
that
to
was a more exciting topic for sure. Let's get into this next one.
sure. Yes, indeed. Yes, this is the first of the heavyweights, and this was a really decent performance that I think can grow into something more. This was Alan Fry Jr. versus Guilherme Pat. Uh, First of all, just to start this thing off before we even get into the fight, Pat screaming in the Apex hallway while Mackenzie Pavicic was trying to do her reporting was potentially one of the funniest things that I have ever seen. Definitely one of the funniest things this year. I like shout out to our boy Andy, our boy Nav, who is just a comedy legend. What Nav is great at is recognizing the value in certain comedy and knowing where to clip and all of that. So Nav putting it in the Discord, I have replayed that clip that he has posted several times. Anytime that I'm blue, I just play that and it perks me right back up.
You know, I don't want to say that I felt really big brained right here. Okay. Because when I saw this, everything stuck out to me. Like red flags were just popping everywhere. Okay. So when you look at these two dudes, especially when you see the way that they're built in like in videos and stuff, I'm looking at them like, these aren't like heavyweights. Like these guys aren't like massive. For some reason they just don't even look like they would make heavyweight. Like they don't look, you know, girthy kind of deal. Like one of them's in shape. Give him that. He's in very good shape. The other one also is just like not in great shape, but he's also not fat. So there's the interesting thing I thought off rip.
Well,
Second, oh,
I
go
was going
ahead.
to say just to add on to that point, it's like how crazy is it that we are so conditioned to just assume that heavyweights are going to be tubby guys? You know what I mean? Like these dudes who are carrying around a massive amount of weight that they potentially could cut. I always go back to that something that you had said earlier, where it's like as a fan of athletics and of sporting in general, you have an expectation of what an athlete looks like, but heavyweight completely throws that to the wind. These, I mean, one more than the other, of
Yeah.
course, but like these guys at least a little bit closer to that. And it's like, wow, this is a novel concept here that these guys actually have somewhat of a physique.
So, and yeah, absolutely. So back to my big brain like feeling. I
Mhm.
look at these two dudes and I'm like, okay, they don't look like they have the heavyweight power. Like they're not just gonna one punch destroy people. Like they don't look like that. Both 6-0. Okay. Undefeated. One of them's
5 and 0, 6 and 0, but yeah.
Yes, yes. One of them potentially is not going to risk that. Like what, how often do you see, not every fight is going to be Ebo and Evo, like where it's two dudes that just don't give a fuck. Like
True.
they will lose everything for this fight. So when I saw undefeated records, I'm like, gosh, there's no way both of them are going to be ready to just lose that. Oh, right in the UFC. We've never even seen them before. There's
Yeah.
no way that they're just going to walk in and lose their record like that. And then I also thought, like, again, they're just not going to be able to have that one shot. So I'm thinking decision coming. For some reason, we have heavyweights that just go to decision now. I called this from a mile away. And to be fair, it was a dartboard. I just fucking threw that shit. Like, it's a decision. This shit, look at them. They're not going to knock each other out. And to be fair, I was right. But I think this is more because Guillermo Pat, like, he got a 30-27. But this is one of the more frustrating performances. He could have finished this dude in the first fucking round. He had a lot of power and very straight, like very technical boxing. He just never flipped a switch. He like rocked this dude like four different times, and then just let him slowly walk over and grab him, and then he's holding him for 3 minutes, and then they get out, and he pops him, like, 4 different times with, like, the hardest shots you've ever seen. The dude is busted in the face for only from strikes, like, it's literally just hooks and straights are just busting this dude's face, just mangling him, and then, again, we're not just these just aren't heavyweights that are just gonna decimate people with 1 strike. I mean, how do you land 64 significant strikes, and they were all heavy. And we're going to talk about the other heavyweights later with the same thing. It's like,
Right.
how are you landing this many fucking shots? Heavyweights, like, come on, I'm supposed to be told 1 shot changes everything with these guys, you know? Like,
Mhm.
this is very concerning. I know Guillermo Pat put on a good performance. He got cage clinched, whatever. The striking looked very good. But dude, you look like a Greek god at heavyweight, and and you don't have the power to put down Alan Fry Jr. You know, like, I don't
Well,
know,
see,
bro.
yeah, so I would be countering some of this by saying that maybe Fry was just really, really tough, but that argument kind of breaks down when you consider the other heavyweight fight on this card. That
I
was
know.
stopped on the feet. So I mean, this could have very well been that had he flipped the switch as well. Yeah, this is why I kind of let in with that as the caveat. Like this was a great performance for Pat in the big picture, but like there are definitely elements that can be improved. And I'm hoping that it is just because he is early in his career. I mean, just now moving up to 6-0. He was the one that was 5-0. So 6-0 now. There were, like you said, very good technical striking elements to him that I think are going to be attractive to a lot of fans. Like, oh, this guy will go in there and he knows how to creatively and effectively utilize his striking. But things like the kicks, he could have been adding in a lot more kicks. He had a couple of decent low kicks. I was like, you should be doubling up on those. It's a nice, easy way to get a couple extra hit points out of the deal. And then that clinch reversal, you talked about that. The fact that he was getting clinched up so much. You said that, oh, these guys are, they're going to come in and they don't want to lose their O. Well, Alan Fry Jr. certainly was fighting that way. He was, once he felt that power, he was like, man, I'm just gonna, I got to negate this. So Guillermo Pat had to really like work on the clinch reversal and cage defense in a big way here, because like that's going to be one of those things that obviously now people will know that that's a hole in your game. If this guy starts hitting you and touching you up in a way you don't like, just freaking clinch him up against the cage. And then of course the last is, like you said, the finishing ability. Obviously, this is heavyweight. You need to be able to finish your fights.
Nobody's gonna be afraid to stand with this dude. I mean, he has got good technical boxing when he's able to walk forward and he's got somebody standing in front of him. Because Alan Fry, I don't know if you caught on to this. People, there was videos posted. I didn't actually watch the videos, but when I was watching the fight, I understood what they were talking about. There was videos of like weeks before for Alan Fry Jr. like training or something, and they were talking about how bad his striking looked. And when I saw in the fight, I kind of got what they were talking about. This dude is not a striker. I mean, listen, not everybody's a striker. I get it, but one boxing, kickboxing class, like, listen, I don't know.
Well, they're
Guillermo,
intentionally trying to bring non-strikers into heavyweight. We've talked about this many times. This is a
true.
meta that is going around. So that does not surprise me if that's the case.
Yeah, so it didn't look good in the cage. Guillermo Pat, again, too many clean shots that he landed on Alan Fry. And the problem is at a certain point, as a fan, you're like, well, he's just not gonna fucking knock him out. I mean, he's just not gonna finish him with that. I mean, it's the 3rd round. You're still landing clean shots. And like he's getting hit and he's like like it's taking him a minute to recognize, like, oh, I got hit. Okay, I'm back in it. You're supposed to like have a combination, like, do something. Like he would land like 4 good strikes and then get held for 2 minutes, come back at the end of the round, land 4 good strikes, and like 30-27. Now, I'm not saying Alan Fry deserved to win a round, but 30-27 is making it seem like this dude fucking dominated him. And
Oh, he did. Come on, he did dominate him. I mean, we got to call a spade
d-
here. The dude was
domination,
meatloaf at the end of this.
domination is crazy because
I mean,
it
come
was
on, dude.
it wasn't really a good performance in my opinion. Uh,
I'm all right. I
if you
mean,
want to call a dude
I
Alan Fry,
understand
man,
wanting the finish, but I mean, you got to admit this was a
no,
one-sided fight.
no, I mean, it's not even about wanting the finish. I mean, he just he didn't have a good volume like for his strikes. The strikes that he was landing again had good power, good technical ability, but like did not ever once lay this dude down. I mean, it cut him up, sure. He was able to do this. I don't think he landed. He landed an elbow, but He mangled him with a lot of punches. He should have been able to push for a finish, and like that's fine. At heavyweight, it's certainly expected. But other than again, he landed like 4 good strikes each round. It wasn't really like he was dominating this dude. It was just Alan Fry didn't do anything and was holding him against the cage. So therefore, we got to give it to the dude who beat the dude who's the dude who's holding him against the cage. His faces look like car wreck. So we got to give it to the guy who make car wreck face. I don't know. That's
Yeah, I get you. I mean, I guess where I'll meet you in the middle on this is that I think that and why I do think that
Mhm,
Guilherme Pat has potential to get better and to be better is because I think that this might have been a pacing issue. I think that Pat coming in, this basically like you had said, two guys coming into the organization new. It's basically a contender series fight on
mhm.
an actual card. So it's like, this dude is probably still working through getting the dynamics of everything down. I think that recognizing the like what you're saying, like keying into the openings and being more ready to unleash when it's appropriate to is something that maybe will come over time. Because one thing that I noticed was in the second round, towards the end of the second round, there was a time that Pat loaded up crazy on a shot, super heavy shot, whiffed the shot. If that had landed, it would have been, that could have been
Is
a
this the
fight
fight
ending
where he
shot.
fell over? Did he fall after he threw this shot? Somebody
Mm,
fell after throwing some crazy ass shot, and it
Oh,
looked
there
so
were
goofy.
that's funny that you say that because there were a couple of times that we saw banana peels on this card,
It
man. There were people slipping all over the place. This was a slippery mat situation going on, but I don't think that was this one. But it was it was just a hook that he had tried to really lay some power on. Ended up whiffing it. I was like, that is, it's a good attempt in the moment, but like if you distribute your output better, again, I think this is a coaching thing. I think this is something that can be coached.
I actually think you're cooking. What I wanted to say too is I forgot to mention why I thought this was going to decision as well is because these are 2 heavyweights they have on a Apex.
Mhm.
They don't have much hope. Like there's not much stock in them. It's like, well, throw them in the Apex, give them a fight. It's not like we put them on a pay-per-view because we're expecting, you know, banger stuff out of them. So either way, I also think you're really cooking because I do think if he was able to establish himself, work the first 2 minutes. If it doesn't work, take a little time off, let him wrestle with you. Don't get into a bad, situation. Round 2 starts, you're rested, then, go after it again. I think the pacing is a very key thing. I think with a little more coaching, a little more cuz he did make it to the bell. It's not like he was just dead to rights, tired and just couldn't do anything. We've seen that before. So, Guillermo Pat getting to the bell, very impressive. Again, he's 6-0, so decent fight cardio. The game planning, I think, good point. I would like to see some better game planning from him. And yeah, I don't know. I think damn, there was one more point that I wanted to make, but either way, I think this
Well,
was
the
a
the
decent
follow-up
performance.
yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
and the follow-up I was gonna have is you're saying, saying about, like, him not gassing out. I mean, like, how many times have we said that the model for heavyweight is literally throw it all in the first round and then just walrus flop around for 2 other rounds, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So, I do appreciate again, this is they're trying to change the meta at heavyweight, and I think in the long term, it's gonna be great because, like, finally, we'll have a greater variety of what we'll see at heavyweight. But it's growing pains right now, and it's growing pains for him being in his first fight in the organization. So yeah.
the last point that I wanted to make, and I think this is not specifically to Guillermo Pat, but this is to Francis Ngannou specifically. When I know that's a crazy thing to throw out right there. When the most recent UFC replay that they had on on YouTube, when we didn't have a UFC card, the fight that I was able to catch was Francis Ngannou, and it was his debut. I was not very impressed.
Hmm.
So let me say that there. He did not look the greatest. He went like 3 rounds with some dude that you've never heard of. And then he ends up like finishing him. But, growing pains. We'll see how it goes.
So
If
what you're saying is that Guillermo Pat is about to be the champ at some point.
what I'm saying is I have never when I saw Francis, I never thought too much. When I saw him in his debut, I'm like, that is not the greatest heavyweight ever that I've seen. So he was able to make a reputation after that. So potentially, Guillermo Pat, anything's possible. You still got the win. It was just not. Listen, again, I'm somebody who I'm looking for greatness. I can tell you if you want me to kiss ass and tell you how many good fighters there are, we can go on for days. But when it comes to great fighters, there's an expectation. Heavyweight great fighters finish people. Like even the non-great heavyweights finish people. So that's just kind of where it stands.
Yeah, and like I said, I think that those adjustments can come. And
Mhm.
look, if it's something that we see consistently fight over fight, maybe a little bit more stock in it at that point. But for
Yes.
now, I think that there are good building blocks in Guillermo Pat. So I think that this is a nice way to start him off, and we'll see how he progresses. Also,
100%.
Chase said a whole bunch of stuff there. What I heard is that Guillermo Pat will knock down Tyson Fury.
I
That's
don't I don't know if this is something to do with your vision or if we can adjust this for our fans here. For Davos, can you just hit a control plus?
Oh yeah, let me see if that'll work there. Is that a little bit better?
Oh, that
Sometimes I
might be a little better.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of moves everything to the side a little bit, but yeah, sorry about that, guys. I know it's it's I work within the limitations of the technology and
I didn't
stuff.
mean to
So
put you on the spot. I didn't mean. But either
yeah,
way,
hopefully
yes.
that's a little better for you.
No, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, all right, cool deal. Um, that all being said, I guess we can move on unless you got anything else for that.
No, thankfully we can move on. But I have to fight for my life on this next one. This is the craziest part.
Oh my gosh, this was yeah, this was an unfortunate one here, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts. This is Melissa Croden versus Luana Santos. What I said coming into this here is that this was a failure to launch for Melissa Croden in this fight. The striking looked lazy. The ground game was beyond lacking after the first round. She was able to get back up in the first round. Give her that. But I mean, you got to be able to get back up more than that when Luana Santos is the one that you're fighting. And Luana Santos is a mid level jiu-jitsu practitioner at best, in my opinion. I've never been sold on Luana Santos being anything better than what she currently is. Even though she is young, she does have time to grow and all of that, whatever. But like, I mean, this is the exact, like what you say about, the difference between good and great. Like, these are the fighters that you need to be able to beat if you're trying to elevate yourself in this sport. And Croden, just that, we talked about her flipping the switch in the first fight, that she was in the organization and how great she looked in that second half of that fight. Like, she needs to be able to not like get to that point that she has to flip a switch. She needs to be able to come in and do it because, like I said, regardless of all of the control that Santos was able to do later in the fight, the striking early on was just labored and not looking like she had any intention to actually bring this fight to Santos.
All right. Here's what actually happened. And
Okay.
I know Thinker just had his whole moment, but
Break it down, sir.
listen.
Go for it. I'm ready.
So Luana Santos is one of the best, if not the best as of right now, at holding people down and doing nothing with it. And listen, and it would be fine. It would be fine if that was the standards that we were judging fights on right now. Because as times change, judging evolves, and we have different things that we look for. Mackenzie Dern is a champion because she was held on the bottom for the entirety of fights. Now, I get Melissa Croden was not as active as what Mackenzie was doing. In round two, I would like to point out, I thought the elbows from the bottom were stealing the round at the end. She didn't do it as long as I thought she should have. But the last 30 seconds, because Luana is doing nothing for 4.5 minutes, elbows on the bottom, that wins it. I just saw Mackenzie Dern do it. I just saw her win from her back with elbows. She's the champion. 4-1 Mackenzie Dern, Mike Bell. Listen, Sal D'Amato. Listen, round one, Melissa Croden. Listen, there's nothing on the feet in all three rounds. That's a crazy part. So Melissa Croden led on the feet, in my opinion, because Luana Santos has no striking, and that's what's unfortunate about it. Luana, it's like this is. I used to glaze her. Like I would be like, dude, fucking pretty girl. Like, come on, like let's go. But like she's genuinely just not backing it up. I know her record is showing, but this is a Grant Dawson type of thing that we're seeing here with her. And I know you guys, you don't want to believe it because people want to glaze the pretty girl, but we just got a 30-27, and in my opinion, she held her in a position in the first round, got her back taken to the most dominant position by the standards of Islam and Volk 1. She takes the whole round because back position's the most dominant position in the game. That's my opinion. That's what I've been told. That's what I've been seeing. Melissa Croden got that position in the end of the first round, stole the round because nothing had happened up until that point. She did everything on the feet until we got to the grappling situation. Then she reversed it, took her back. Luana didn't do anything in the grappling. So, I mean, you can see she had 12 significant strikes. Like, I mean, where was she winning a fight? In my opinion, she was maybe winning a grappling match. She was doing some very good wrestling, but when it came to winning, the in the aspects of the mixed martial arts bout, I thought Melissa Croden did the better things for the first two rounds. Round three, I will agree with a lot of people. that she was held down for the entirety of that round. But what is Luana Santos doing? Like, seriously. I mean, not much. And I will admit she's able to hold somebody down. It is not a good look for your favorite like position, your little headlock, for somebody to just take your back immediately after it, especially in the first round. Imagine if it was somebody good. Imagine if this was anybody in the bantamweight division named Amanda Nunes, Kayla Harris, anybody that you can name. Like, you're in bantamweight now. These are massive women, and Luana Santos is a very undersized bantamweight. I mean, if you want to tell me she won 30-27, I'm not going to believe that. 29-28, fine. Fine. I can believe that if you want to be that way. But you will not sit here and tell me Luana Santos is some top. I mean, I know it's women. It's women's bantamweight. We've seen Chelsea Chandler as number 15th ranked. I get it. Maybe I'll stop being so hard on Luana, but listen, this is not some world killer. I
No,
I don't
I
know,
mean
guys.
that's, yeah. No, first of all, 29-28 is what I added at. I didn't think it was a 30-27. I thought that Croden took the first round, even though, like I said, I thought the striking was labored at distance. She needed to take advantage of the times where she was on her feet. Why do I always talk about being a fast starter? These are the exact type of fights that prove my rule here. If you are being taken down consistently and you're having a feel out first round, even if she ended up winning the first round, good for her. She got back to her feet. That was the important distinction there. She did take her back, like you had said. She takes the first round. I'm fine with that. But then consistently held down for those next two. After round two, I had said if Croden gets taken down again, she is done for. And then she got taken down again in the third, and she got held down for the entirety of it. Like you said, Santos didn't do anything special in this fight. She controlled on the feet a little bit. She had the takedown. She had control on the ground. That was what she did. She had the scarf hold for 90% of this fight, is what it felt like, at least after the first round. Definitely consistently thereafter. And like I said, taking advantage of the distance was what she needed to do. You knew what Santos was going to do, especially towards the end of this fight. It was obviously her game plan was a one-track monorail. You knew what she was going to be doing there. Don't let her do it. That's what you have to do to win these fights. So yeah, I mean, to say that I look, when it comes to the elbows from the bottom or whatever, like, debatable, I suppose. I'll give you a little bit of leeway on that. But like, the overall picture here is Melissa Croden in that headlock in the big brother hold, getting, just getting worked on the ground, not worked, but just being laid on the ground, being laid on top, lay and preyed upon.
And I don't feel too bad for her because I saw Dricus. Listen, with Dricus Duplessis, Hamzat's laying on him on a crucifix. I mean, these are not like they're not going to kill you, and it's not whatever you want to say. Luana can just lay on somebody and do nothing for as many rounds as she wants. But when it actually comes to matter, and the time comes that she can't do that, I'm just gonna have to see what she's made of because the striking in the third round did not look like she was going to put up much of a fight if a takedown was stuffed. Thankfully, Melissa Croden is not as good as I thought she was because Luana gets a win here, I guess, for her. But I
Yeah,
mean,
this is exactly what we're saying. It's just Croden needs to be able to get back to her feet, or if she can't get back to her feet, if that's just a hole that she has in her game that she's not going to be able to work through, she needs to take advantage of where the fight starts, which is on the feet. You need to come out swinging. I'm telling. Go back to that first round and see what her striking looked like, and how about any of those rounds? Really, I mean, could they all start on the feet? You could have been doing a lot more work earlier on, and then but I think that by the time that she was like in those late, at least by the third round, she knew that if she starts throwing, Luana gets under the shot, she goes for the double leg, then there it is. You know what I mean? Or goes for the neck and pulls her down with that. I mean, either way, she just started to navigate this ineffectively because of being scared of the takedown, which was already inevitably going to come. Self-fulfilling prophecy is what ended up happening here. You got to be more confident in your striking.
I will once again say that it's despicable from the judging that not one of them, like, you know, wouldn't three judges, two of them have opposing views and one of them's kind of like a wild card, right? In a fight like this, where I come out and I can tell you that Luana did nothing, like literally nothing. She took her down, laid on her, and didn't even lay on her, really, just laid on her side, whatever you want to say. And then 30-27, 29-28, all three of them see the same thing. It's just ridiculous. The 30-27 pisses me off the most because you're not even fucking watching. Like, you're just not even trying. You just know Luana Santos, pretty girl. Oh, yeah, she won that round. She wins every round. She wins every round. You know, why wouldn't she? Mackenzie Dern 4-1. She wins every round. I mean, what are you talking about? If the other person doesn't clearly whoop her fucking ass, she's gonna win every fucking round. Not one judge, gave Melissa Croden any talking points that I had to talk about. Where were they watching? Again, I just the pretty privilege is just running too rampant in the UFC, man. I mean, we just
Well,
we
this is
just
kind of
can't do
crazy to
anything.
hear, though, because I mean, Melissa Croden, not an unattractive woman, I would say. I mean, if we're talking about it like that, if we're taking it to that level, which I'm not necessarily agreeing that this is what this paradigm is that you're laying
It,
out, but if we
it
are going to
it's
take it
no,
there,
it's the class system. You got the OnlyFans pretty girl, and then you got the hardworking, blue collar.
girl
They
next
don't they
door,
dude.
dealy.
That's what I'm saying. They want to keep them down because Luana Santos can shake her butt, and she hangs out with Nina Drama. I
This is
don't
what the
know.
judges are considering. I don't
Why
know.
wouldn't they? They're fans of the sport. They watch it every week. Like, I don't what do you guys not think that their social media algorithms are not the same as ours? Like, what do you guys think they do in their free time? They go fucking golf with Donald Trump? No, fucking they're watching Bo Nickel on the weekends when he's on his fucking YouTube channel. Like, I don't
All
know.
right, fair enough then. I don't know. Well, I hard to speculate on that element of it, but what I do know is that Luana Santos at the end of this fight screaming like she actually did something was very funny.
Dude,
And
she's
then
gonna listen.
what?
Pretty girl's gonna get humbled. Listen, Tracy
Oh,
Cortez has been humbled a couple different times, and it's because she probably didn't have the skill to back it up.
yeah,
So
no, a reckoning is coming in a major way for Santos if she ends up moving up because of this or any time. Yeah,
she's not allowed to be boring because she's hot. Dude,
I
listen.
saw it came in right as you were talking about it, and I was like, yeah, if Toby of all people would be the one to have that take.
The main thing that I have the problem with is like, I make a big deal about it and people would be like, "Oh my god, it's a fight on the prelims. Like, why should you care so much about the judge's decisions? Like, she's the hot girl. She won. Who cares the hot girl won?" Literally, I've heard that for fucking 4 days now. Whatever you want to say. 3 days. I don't even know how many it's been. But either way, this is the problem. We need to get better judging. Let me be the judge. I tell you guys right now, I'll get us the right decisions.
Fair, yes, chase for judging, but I mean, really though, I think that were this to be the case with a less attractive woman, you'd have a different set of things that you'd be saying, and it would be the
It's
same
all about the
outcome, though.
quota. It's all about the
Oh,
quota,
it's a
dude.
quota thing. Okay,
It
all right. Well,
is.
whatever. Well, and explain to me though the image that had been going around and what I picked up on mid fight. Looked like Santos had a little bit of staph going on the knee. Did you notice that?
I did see that. It also could have been Matt Burn. I mean, in that particular area, right on the knees, I mean, it
Sure.
it, it definitely looks like a blister kind of deal. Like, it could have been. I mean, listen, if you guys want to hang your hat on her being shit because she had staph, all means go for it. Go for it. I will still be rooting on her downfall. I will say that. And it's all because of Melissa Croden. So thank Melissa Croden out there. She has made a lifelong hater for Luana Santos.
Sure. And one thing to be very aware of for everybody is, especially for all of the Luana Santos simps out there, is that she is taken by her dog. So,
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. And
and
actually, we should make a bigger point. She is actually crazy. She is following Israel Adesanya's
oh,
playbook.
youtube.com/@ Yama Show if you want an entire breakdown of Luana Santos and her situation with animal abuse, is what
Yeah,
I would class it as.
absolutely.
But all right. Anything else?
No, this one really was this was god damn, dude, because the other listen, so I had a parlay, right?
Hmm.
And we'll talk about the last leg here in a little bit. But so the first leg was Jamie Lynn Horth, second leg Melissa Croden. So this one I obviously was expecting to go a different way, and I would create every other imaginable way for her to win if I can. Did not happen. But the third leg we'll talk about in a little bit. And man, am I upset at
Yeah,
myself.
I suspect we might have had a similar parlay, but we can get into it when we get there. But
Yes.
yeah, Croden, I wanted better out of that. That's why a lot of my notes are really more criticisms of her than of I mean, yes, Santos did lay and pray for the entire fight with this, whatever. You have to be able to overcome that. Is my note here, and what I saw out of Croden, based on what we had seen in the previous fight, it was underwhelming, and I was upset with that.
My thing is I put a lot of stock in Croden. I touted her to be some top contender in bantamweight, and I truly don't think I'm wrong because I never am. So I'm gonna give her the benefit of the doubt, just like I'm giving Drekis. You can't do much if somebody is just gonna lay on you and do nothing. Like, I mean, if they're not gonna compete to like actually make an entertaining bout, I mean, what can you do?
What you can do
Sometimes.
is get the fuck back up. You can
Yeah,
work your way back up, figure it out. Fighters
Drekis
do
is
it
a
all the
world
time.
champ and he didn't. I don't know. Melissa Croden.
Well, you said it yourself though. You think Kayla Harrison would have been laying there like that? Come
No,
on.
dude, Brock would get up,
That's
dude.
what I'm saying. So that's my point is that, and look, I'm not saying that Croden is at that level yet and couldn't get there at some point. But like, as I said earlier, these are the fighters that you need to beat to advance in this sport. Like, you have to overcome this.
Yeah, I think we're just learning that people, what used to be the meta, right, is like getting people down and you can hold them down. And like that was the meta. Now the meta is get to the stalling positions and then do enough that they can't break up the position. But in technicality, you really have your opponent in a stalemate position, but you're not necessarily doing anything to win the fight. And if this becomes a genuine like meta, quote unquote, oh, dude, I need some heavy hitters. This is why I'm a fan of Alex Pereira. Like, just
I mean, that would be the regression of the sport. Lay and pray was dubbed that for a
well,
reason. You lay on top and you pray for a decision win. I mean, this came from the 90s.
yeah.
So we can't be going backwards. We got to be going forwards, just like
Oh yeah.
Melissa Croton.
Yeah.
Walk forward and punch.
True.
All right. Well, let's go forward on this card here. This is one of the other heavyweight fights, and this was quite a good one. I enjoyed this very much. This was Sean Sharif versus Concrete Stephen Asplund. Lot to go over with this. My first note was that Sharif was walking out to what sounded like haunted mansion ambient noise, which somebody in the chat had said was like a TikTok thing, I guess. I I don't know what that's about. I'm not big on TikTok, but it just sounded very strange to me.
Ah,
And
yes, the local TikTok fan, Sean Sheriff.
maybe for the memes, maybe for the engagement, whatever. Anyway, it just sounded like a bunch of noise. That it sounded like ominous noise, and I thought that was an interesting choice. Other note before the actual fight was Asplund with the rare lady corner. I don't know if you heard his coach who was giving all of the shout out calls. That was longtime women MMA fighter Caitlin Young, who is a former opponent of Gina Carano. So she's been around for a very long time. She was doing the calls in the Asplund corner, which you don't hear very often. So shout out to him. Stephen Asplund, somewhat of a progressive fighter, I guess you could say.
This fight, this fight was good. I mean, it was. I will say this. They came out ready to fight. I mean, I remember Steven Asplund when I think he said it when he was walking in the cage, like, I'm ready to fight. Like, I hope he's ready to, I hope he's ready to fight. And in the back of my mind, we haven't seen much of Steven Asplund, so there was still the thought, like, how much is he ready to fight? Sean Sheriff, when the fight started, they go in there and slug a little bit. Sean Sheriff actually catches Steven Asplund a couple times, not necessarily early, but throughout the fight, he catches him. And it gives you the sense like, oh, he'll actually like, take it on the chin. He's ready to fucking fire back. So unfortunately, though, I will say this: Steven Asplund has the tall man defense, where it's just tilt your head back and just pray for the best. It's gonna bite him in the butt. It's gonna bite him in the butt. You know how I know? Look at Yair Rozenstruik versus Francis Ngannou. You watch that sequence. Yair does. Actually, was it Yair? It probably was. Does everything in his power to defend all those shots, and just Francis is just a madman, just throwing wild hooks, and eventually it just fucking lands. Stephen Asplund, I think eventually somebody's just gonna throw a combination long enough that's gonna you're gonna put the chin out, and someone's gonna catch you, but you do a very good offensive boxing. That is true what you do. That is very, very good. When it comes to what you do powerfully, I mean, nickname concrete. We're gonna have to work on it. Like, maybe I don't know what the science is. Like, I don't know because again, this was a shout out Stephen Asplund, former 500 plus pound man. He lost all the weight. You can see it in his performance. You can see all the missing weight. Um, I don't know the science behind it. You would carry the mass, this is what weight bullies do, they have the mass and then they come down and then they rehydrate up or whatever. I know he's not rehydrating up, but he at once was able to do things as a man of 500 pounds. He's now a lot slimmer. Is he doing a lot of muscle growth at this point in his in his like weight loss career? Is he a pillow puncher? I know that's a bad way to say it, but, like, is the reason that he's not knocking people out is because he hasn't, like, started shredding the gym yet, you know? Like, what's
Well,
the science here?
so I was going to save this for later on at the end of the assessment here, but I do have a quote from Laura Sanko that might enlighten you a little bit if you'd like me to read
Okay.
this. This is from Laura Sanko mid fight. She said, I remember Asplund in our fighter meeting saying, I'm going to have the better gas because don't forget that Sharif used to weigh 170. He said, he's a new fat guy, is what he called him. I've been fat for a long time and I've got that big boner, is what he said.
He's got a big boner, okay.
That is a direct quote from Laura Sanko. So do you think that the big boner has something to do with any of this?
I think the big boner definitely has everything to do with it because dude's got big balls to go along with it, I'll tell you that. But
Sure thing.
this is a funny quote because we've seen fat people who have walked around being fat for the entirety of their lives, and they have the gas tank of a newborn baby. So, where did he come up with this quote? I don't know, but he does have an impressive gas tank for somebody who once was 500 pounds. Imagine a 500-pound man just like outrunning you in like an endurance race. Like you're like,
Legit.
like at the end, he just gets to the finish line. Whatever you want to say, fat bastard from Austin Powers. So, whatever you want to say, this dude, the volume, the pace for a former 500-pound man is damn near impressive.
Well, and
But
oh, sorry.
go
Let
ahead.
me. It's one other thing I do want to interject with this because I hear what you're saying about the potential for finishes, the knockout potential. What we're
I
not
haven't even
seeing.
got there yet. You're
Well, I mean
just
that's what
stating
you're
out the
basically.
implications here.
I mean that's essentially what you're getting at. You did call him pillow handed at one point just back
Well,
there.
listen, 172 total
Well,
strikes,
let me
dude.
let me get the thought out here. This is the so what I want to posit. Okay, is that not just necessarily with Asplund, but at heavyweight, as we've talked about, meta's perhaps changing. They're trying to bring in wrestlers, they're trying to get different variety of fighters who can fill the shoes at heavyweight. Also, we are in an era of the sport that has progressed. These are fighters who are specifically training to fight in mixed martial arts in a way that perhaps they may not have been. A lot of times in the past, and even as recent as recent years past, last 10 years or so, you might have seen guys who were just big guys who could go out there and slug, and that's what had us in that position where you'd have one good round and then 2 rounds of just no gas, just them flopping all over the place. There not potential for these fighters to be better conditioned to the point where we get less knockouts at heavyweight period because they are more able to take more damage, to take harder shots, and that's just going to have to be something that we accept.
I golly, I don't know. Because it's not even about power. Speed and accuracy can do the same effect that power does.
I mean, did that
S-
not he showed that, right?
He didn't knock him out.
Well,
I
that's but
mean,
that's my point. Well, yeah, he
well,
did.
he did,
A,
but
he did, but I mean,
but
and B, but no, I mean that goes to that point. He did have speed, he did have
yes.
accuracy, and he ended up getting a TKO. It wasn't a flush
Yes,
knockout, but
but, at heavyweight, it mostly the power is what drops people lifeless. But when it comes to any other weight class, we've seen speed and accuracy can have the same effect as a power puncher. If you hit somebody right on the button, it just turns them off. If you hit somebody so hard, it just turns them off. Whatever you want to say. But so I would think Stephen Aspin, as good of a boxer he is, as fast as hands, he's got a very accurate, punch. I think I don't know, you would have thought that he would have caught him at some point at heavyweight, like, I mean, so it's just interesting to note that we had a finish on the feet, which very like, I know I'm not the one to say I am the one to say, "Don't finish the fight on the feet." Actually, that's what I meant to say. "Don't finish the fight on the feet, ref." You know, he better fall to the ground before you finish it, but, this was probably a pretty good stop. I mean, we'll talk about some stops on this card. This was a pretty decent one. But I mean, I like Steven Aspin. I think I think maybe you're getting an impression that I'm not a fan of him because I think he couldn't, flatline him, but it was a very good performance.
No,
It's just not the you know
yeah, no, no. I think I'm assessing pretty accurately that you're hypercritical often, which is which is hey, look, you come from a perspective that I respect, so I'm okay with the with that aspect of things. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I mean, overall, this was I thought it was a really nice performance. We're talking about power. I mean, I don't know if it necessarily is power specifically, but I did have to note that based going to off of what you said, where like he uses his length very well. I mean, granted, sometimes it is the fade back defense, which is kind of risky, but the reach was what he was using very well. He had some decent reach going on that was allowing him to get longer range shots, and he ended up cutting Sharif between the
That's
eyes
yeah.
off of a jab. Off
That's
of
what
a
I wanted to
jab.
talk about
Yeah.
too. Yeah, I was gonna say it's an interesting dichotomy. Is he so powerful that he can punch a hole in someone's skin, or is he, not punch hard enough to knock him out? I don't know. I've rarely seen somebody get split open. Like, it wasn't like a grazing shot. Like, it wasn't like the leather split him. It was just like he punched him right in the fucking head and just
Yeah.
it split open. So
Absolutely.
maybe this dude just has some scar tissue there. I don't know.
Could be that. Definitely could be that. Either way, though, I thought that was impressive. The combinations were nice when they were landing. I thought the variety was really good for Asplund. He came in with the elbows very nicely, the uppercuts going on. He threw that front kick, which I'm like, for a heavyweight guy, is pretty decently athletic based
Who
on what we
fell?
know
It
about.
was pretty funny.
Well, there was that, yes. And again, there were several times that we saw banana peeling on this card. So, I can't really like put that all on him because there were one of them led to a fucking knockout that we'll talk
Yeah.
about. But I mean, so it's that is yes, there there were definitely moments of levity when it came to that. But overall, yeah, I was pretty impressed with. I don't think that you cannot be impressed by the output. I mean, this dude set the record for heavyweight strikes in a 3-round fight. Now, I mean, 170 significant strikes landed. This is an impressive feat for a heavyweight in general. So Stephen Asplund out here winning fans, and that's not even counting him on the mic.
I just, when it comes to heavyweight, you truly have to understand, for the most part, one shot can change the entirety of the fight. Is he gonna get 107? Is he gonna get 100 shot, 50 shots? How many shots can Steven Asplin get off before the potential one and done shot comes? I think this is a little favored matchmaking. They give somebody who they know Sean Sharf is not necessarily going to go down easy. He's not somebody that's probably been knocked out up until here. Steven Asplin, they've been touting him as a volume puncher for the longest time. He's a volume guy, and obviously we see it. But is that going to bode well against somebody who can actually, crack? I don't know. It's interesting.
Sure. Well, I mean, definitely that.
Or wrestle.
Well, I mean, that was going to be my other point. Yes. So it's two things. One, favorable matchmaking. I mean, Sharif was a tough guy in this fight. I do give him some credit. He took a lot of damage and he was really pushing forward. But with the note that I made about the distance striking, one thing that I noticed a lot in this is because of the long reach of Asplund, Sharif was whiffing a lot of shots. It looked like he was being very active, and the optics looked good on that. He was throwing a lot, but I mean, you can see it even reflected in the numbers. A lot of times he was just too far out of range. So guys who are a little bit longer, that might be a little issue. And as you said, the wrestling was not at all represented in this fight, even though Sharif has a wrestling background. So he chose not to do it. He went for one shoot, didn't work out, and just abandoned it thereafter. There are going to probably be, especially with this new meta we're talking about, other guys who might want to wrestle. There are still unanswered questions with Asplin for sure. I will
Yeah.
admit that.
Absolutely. And I think there's a couple more things that I want to touch on. His post-fight speech, I don't know if you caught on to it, but he has this ability. He says things that are very crowd engaging. So at the end of it, and this is not the point that I think you're probably thinking I want to point out, and it is a very good sentiment, but like the way that he was able to say something that got the crowd's reaction. He was like, I used to be fat, blah blah blah. I know I'm disgusting. Like that was like his moment. And everybody in the crowd is like, oh no, no, you're not. Like, no, dude, you're beautiful. Shit like that. It's like he has a way to get the crowd engaged with him. It's not like he's just talking. It's like he brings something out of people. It's not necessarily something that I would do. I'd be like, oh no, he said what he said, I'm listening to him, but like people in the crowd clearly resonate with what he's saying. Like they can kind of there's something about him that people want to engage with, and that's important. But the other thing that I will note, he does have a current loss by submission to Denzel Freeman, who, if you did not know, is now the upcoming opponent for Josh Hokett, who has been beefing with Steven Asplin on Twitter as of
I
lately.
saw this. Yes, I did see that. I did know about that. I was going to say Denzel Freeman. You talking about Luke Fox?
No,
Uh,
talking
but
about Carl fucking Weathers,
yeah,
whatever his
Carl
name is,
Winslow. Yes, indeed.
Winslow.
Yes, no, yeah, I saw that. I also did see that Asplin and Hokett have been going back and forth. Hokett's one of these dudes who's starting to try to jaw at all the fresh heavyweights and stuff, doing what he's supposed to do. I'm not even really mad at that part of it. We'll see if they end up collision coursing at some point. To your point about the post fight, you are correct. He is a very endearing figure, I would say, and also and this who knows what the reality is, but at least based on the eye test, genuine, I would say.
Mhm.
I mean, he comes off all of the things that he says resonate with people because it seems like him as a true person. Dedicated the fight to his father, who was there in the cage with him. That was a really nice moment. I thought that might be something that you would have picked up on and would have resonated with you. The starting off getting in even with good with Bisbing. It's an honor to be next to you. Fuck Luke Rockhold. I thought that was a hilarious way to start this thing. The guy knows how to make himself likable to people, and hey, it's working with me. I'm not gonna, I recognize that he's doing it, but until I see a reason not to go with it, I'm going with it.
I'll tell you the fight that needs to happen with Steven Asplin, and this is not necessarily a shot at the person that I'm gonna say. Like, this is not a winnable fight for Steven Asplin. I think it's actually a pretty decent matchup, but it is somebody who deficiency in wrestling, so it's not necessarily going to have him showcasing that against Steven. And it is somebody who has a good 3 round gas tank that can also bang. You ready? Jonathan Denise. I think this is a great matchup for Steven Asplin.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is the exact type of performance and fight that would get you that fight. Not that Janice is necessarily, stars and bars above,
Right.
but it's the exact right step up, I would say. So yeah, I like that a lot. Actually, I think that's a
Mhm.
good call.
Yeah, no, this is the Steven Asplin is fun. I'm not necessarily gonna say he's our heavyweight goat in the making, but for what he is at the time being, he's fun. You
Yeah.
know,
I think that is to the T perfect assessment of all of this. It was a great performance with the dynamics that we just laid out. He's very personable, as we've said. I really didn't see much not to like about this. I thought that Sharif was a good counterpoint to all of this because he is a tough guy. I feel like Sharif, I want to believe that there's more for him because he is tough, but it's like it's hard to say that. Yeah.
Nah, bro. I mean, I've said this before. I said this just last week. Being the tough guy. I mean, we're at the highest level of the sport. You have to have some skill to back up just being tough and having heart. Like, I mean,
Sure.
Sean Sharif, 4-2. I mean, you just got obliterated for 3 rounds, basically. I mean, the I don't know. I'm not when I all I see is Azmat Mirzakhanov when I see him, and I'm like, "Man, this dude, like, he's not Azmat." Like that's all that I think about with him. So
Sure.
there's not
Yeah.
necessarily a good reputation that he's left on me. Like, oh, that's the not Azmat Mirzakhanov guy. Like there's just
Right.
different ways to think about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree, and like I said, I want to believe that there's more. There probably is not, but I do appreciate that he was how he was in this fight because it gave us the fight that we
Mhm.
got. So overall, I was very, very happy with this fight. I thought that this was a really good one.
Anti-blob is a pretty good thing to say. That's crazy. I
I
like it.
mean, kind of ironic considering that he's the body positivity guy. That's what I thought. Another nice aspect of his, not even in his post fight, a little bit in his post fight, but he was, saying heavy kids out there, no, don't let people say that you're less than. You can change your life. You can better yourself. That's what I did, this and that. I mean, I think that there's a lot of great things over here with him. One thing that did come up in the watch along, though, and I was curious to your thoughts on this. If they put him into UFC, the video game, do we have the jiggle physics on the extra skin?
I all right. I don't know about that one. The thing that one is crazy. I'll have to actually think about that.
That would be wild if they did that. Come on.
My they have emotes in the game too, dude. I mean,
Oh, good lord, could you imagine? Yes, that's the that if there's any one negative thing I can't say about Asplin is I could really do without the titty jiggling. That's dude, come on, that's enough with that.
the thing that I was thinking when I was sitting here talking about the positivity thing, he's talking about all the fat kids in the world. Where's the spread the positivity to not get fat? Like like why isn't he spreading that word? Like, hey, let's not have our children get to this point where they have to do that. If
Well, but yeah, I think that a lot of people are already on that. But I mean, his
are
point
they?
is
We're
that
still getting we're obese in America.
well, I mean, that's whether people listen or not is a different story.
Well,
But
true, but he could be the guy saying like, "Hey, if this is the way that I feel about myself, like don't you don't wanna feel like this,
yeah,
I'm
well,
looking out for you because I've been here, I know what it's like, I'm not saying that he should feel like that, but if that's the way that he's coming off in his post-fight speech, where's the change to school lunches, my man? Like,
well,
let's
so yeah,
go.
so maybe he just evolves the messaging to be like, look, if you have gotten here already, you can better yourself, but maybe you also don't get here in the first place. I like that. I think that's a good compromise.
There we go.
Fair enough. All right. Well, good job, Stephen Asplin. Come out here and we'll, do it again or do it better. We'll see what happens. Really got to see what he's like on the ground. That's going to be the big test.
When it comes to storylines at heavyweight, I think you have Waldo right now. You have Tom Aspinall, of course.
Mhm.
Stephen Asplin is a pretty good one. That's a pretty good storyline in heavyweight. And then
Oh, I
Josh
would say so.
Hokick, of course. I mean, I think he also falls into that
Eh,
category.
and Hokit, for as cringe as I think he is, like I think it serves a purpose as well. So I'm
Yeah,
okay with. I really like what you just outlined as far as those go. Like I'm cool with all of that.
yeah.
I'm fine with that.
It's entertainment.
Indeed, we need it, especially at heavyweight. So
True. And
all right.
speaking of,
Yes, well, let's talk about it. Next up was Joanderson Brito versus Isaac Thompson. Thompson, of course, the 23-year-old who came in on 4 days' notice to make his UFC debut. He was filling in for
mm,
Melsik Begdasarian.
yes, I was not going to know that off the top. I knew, I saw his face and I knew who he lost to, but that name, not for me. This fight, oh God, hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. It's hilarious because Joe Anderson Brito has this effect. And I said this in the Discord. He has this way to make anybody he fights look magical in some regards. I genuinely don't get it. I
Yikes.
don't get it. Like I know again, Isaac, crazy name. Faber was his coach, right? Uh,
Is he an alpha male guy?
I am pretty sure Faber was in his corner.
It could have been.
So
I didn't pick up on that. So
so Isaac quite possibly gained the most stock out of all the people on this card. I mean, this is an underrated performance. I mean, Joannis and Brito, people understand as a very this is like the unk. Like he fights like unk. Like he's just there to like overpower you. He's never really like doing anything too exciting, but he's gonna just like impose his will. And the thing about Isaac is he's actually quite impressive when it comes to defending a lot of these positions and a lot of things that Brito was trying to do. He had great answers for them. It's and a lot of these 4 days notice, whatever you said. You can't game plan for a lot of this. Brito, he does fight a very specific way, but like for what Isaac was doing, that's a lot of just instinct. Like that's just you hit the switch and you know that this move is just gonna have to get you somewhere else. And he was doing a lot of great things. Brito, great. How is he so boring? How is he so boring? I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I really think that this was like you talk about us being right at times. I mean, I think that this one really did show like an accurate assessment of Brito coming into this thing because like he is a dude. We were talking about it on the last episode, a guy who at the time his stock was really like going up. He was a guy that could have been on the next wave, like a dude to keep an eye on, and he just went off of he plateaued in a way and went off the cliff like as far as like progression in this sport goes to the point where he's losing a round to a 23-year-old debutante fighter. Like,
It's
yeah.
not even just losing a round, dude. Every round, you probably could make an argument for Thompson. Like, I mean, he looked genuinely pretty for 23 years old. I mean, this dude, look at the dude. I don't know. This was a very good fight from fucking Isaac. I,
Oh,
I
sure.
thought
This
very
was a
high of this guy.
I know we were talking all about it on the watch along. We were like that for he did not win this fight, but for a short notice debut, this is one I said it multiple times. I hope they keep this guy around. I hope they give him another shot. You know.
This was the for a while now, I haven't seen an Australian that I've been like, "That's a fucking Chad right there." Like, that guy right there is that
Not
fucking dude.
not even
Go ahead.
Quillen.
Okay, Quillen, okay, fair. But he hasn't, he ain't been in.
He had to become that.
True.
Yeah.
This guy right here, 4 days notice, he came in 23 years old. I'm like, "Psh, the world's ahead of you, kid."
Yeah,
Like, this
sure.
is
Well, and what I liked about it was that like Brito again, Brito won this fight in my opinion. I mean, like definitely. I don't think that there's really any two ways. I think the judges got this pretty much exactly correctly. Took that first round, the newcomer Thompson did, but it was the veteran status. It was a patient performance. It was steady, good output. It was all of the things that you should be doing at this stage of his career. For Thompson to come in and throw a wrench in the well-oiled machine, so to speak, I think that's really what is sticking out to everybody. And what people were saying, and I do kind of agree with, is that Thompson was a little over eager. I think that a couple of mistakes were on display at times. Dean Thomas had said, oh, he's having a little too much fun in there, kind of thing. And I was like, if that's your major note, is that the guy is too much of a go get after it fighter, that's a
he's
good, what I'm saying? That's a good way to start.
Yeah, he's 23. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
when you say stuff about like, oh, he's having too much fun in there, and you're looking at a 33-year-old, it's like, yeah, well, okay, he needs to fucking cut it out. He's
right.
23 years old, 4 days notice. He's now in the UFC. He can have a little fun. Honestly, I'm okay with that.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, like, compared to some of the debut performances where we see people staying far, well, we will talk about one. Either way, my point is that, like, that is what you want to see out of a fighter, is going after it, trying things. Not everything's going to work, even as a veteran. You get better over time. You get better with experience. That's why the veteran status of Brito won out in this fight. But overall, a lot of great answers, as you had said, a lot of great navigation of this fight, and to take a round in his debut off of a veteran fighter. Guy was 18-5. I mean, like that's now it's 17-5 coming into this fight.
And
That's an impressive feat.
you keep saying he took a round off of him as if he only did something good in the first round.
No, that's not what I mean by it, though. I mean, he definitively took one, and he had moments in the others.
That's what you need to make key about.
Right.
I think definitively taking one, that's very good. That's very good. But it's not like he got smoked those other two. He
Sure.
made a very good, competition here. Brito genuinely did not get to walk in and walk out, on 4 days notice. I mean, with a very good opponent in Brito that we think of, he should be coming in here and getting this done easily. He actually had to work for a lot of stuff. He couldn't just take the night off kind of deal. And I think that is what's key when it comes to short notice, guys. If you just make it hard for these people, you've done all that you can do. You've tried your hardest. You're 23 years old, future's ahead of you. Record is not looking great so far, but like if it's shit like this that are your losses, people will understand.
Yeah, absolutely, and I certainly do. And I did also want to highlight that in the second round, the Darce from Brito was looking like a decent setup, and Thompson was able to negate that. Like, that's a really good sign for a guy who should be able to finish a Darce against a debutant fighter. He was able to negate that and get himself out of it. Again, these are all those same things. So to your point, that there was no crazy ass whipping going on here. That's absolutely plays into that and on display.
Yeah, 100%.
So yeah, hopefully we will see more out of Isaac. Why he chooses to pronounce his name that way, I do not know. But apparently his family is like combat sports family, and they sent him off to go train in the United States. So he's all in as far as that would lead one to believe.
It makes you wonder why they didn't stay and train in Australia. Do they not know that you have like the greatest of all times of divisions in Australia? Like, I don't know.
I mean, maybe they have the same criticisms of some of the gyms down there that you do.
I guess maybe you're right.
I don't know, but either way, yeah, good, shout out to Thompson. Good performance, and fine win for Brito, as you should. I mean, that's I think the end of the story with him is like, yeah, duh, you should have won this fight. It should have been more of an ass whooping, but that goes to our earlier points of him kind of not being who he once was.
Maybe he's cooking. I now see Isaac and wonder, how did we get Isaac? How is it not Isaac? It literally is 2 A's. Isaac. I mean,
I
whatever.
mean, there's some validity to that. Yeah, I'll give you that. All
Yeah,
right, fair enough then. Then maybe he starts the new meta of that being the pronunciation.
100%,
I
100%.
like it. Narratives are written every day in this sport.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to the next one here. Look, I take it in stride that my guy, this is Neil Magny versus Yaroslav Amosov. I take it in stride. What I say about Neil Magny, I think prove itself true here. If you have to be the man to beat Neil Magny. Neil Magny does not lose to bums. He beats the bums. The goats get through. Yaroslav Amosov doing a quick, dominant performance, getting a quick early round one submission over Neil Magny shows that he's about it. I am happy that he is about it. I like the guy. I like his story. You talk about stories. I like his as well. I am okay. I like I said, I take that I was wrong about this one, but I think it's okay when this is what it was.
I want to remind you about the UFC Apex 100. Right? Back
Sure.
when we had that, Neil Magny was also on that card because what did I say then? He's the final boss of the Apex. So
Yes.
it makes sense. Last Apex card of the ESPN era, who do you have? Neil Magny. Close it off right. You know he's been here since the beginning. Why not have him there? So what I originally thought that Amasov was gonna fit. Dude, his name is say it one more time for me.
Yaroslav Amosov.
Yeah, the syllables and the way that the names sound, they roll off the tongue too similar. That's anyway, Amasov, very good performance. I think there's not really much that I can say about it. I mean, finishing Neil Magny is obviously amazing. Your first fight in the UFC being Neil Magny, genuinely pretty decent step up. Like the only thing that I can think of being that similar was like RDR and GM3. Like that's like is what this was basically. But Amasov had no time wasted. He wanted to get this finish as soon as he wrapped up the Anaconda. It was tight. Neil Magny had no fucking opportunity. I mean, there's not really much more to actually. No, yeah, there's not too much more to it. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, I mean, really, it was very quick. I mean, little high kick, takedown, ground control into the anaconda, and it was effective. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he made it look easy, is what I said with this, and that is what you want to do if you really are about it. Look, what we think about it in these terms, right? We talk about fighters coming in from other organizations for a reason. We have had a spat of fighters who have not lived up to what their records would lead one to believe. So it is very refreshing to see a
Hmm.
guy like Amasov come in here and do what you're supposed to fucking do when you have a belt from another organization. I'm completely okay with this. This should be more of what we see. We just haven't. So Amasov doing this, I love it. I think it's great. Welcome to the UFC. Shout out to Ukraine.
We will talk about it later with another fight specifically, but I say it all the time. These are fights where you should finish this. Like if you are that guy, if you are the guy coming up, you finish this fight. And we've seen it with Carlos Prates, we've seen with Michael Morales. They finished Neil Magny. And I'm not saying it's because Neil Magny's a bum, it's because these guys are special. Neil Magny he tests the special people. He doesn't get just your average run of the mill fighters. He gets the people that are potentially onto something crazy. And we could see Amasov here, man. I mean, he's 29-1. He lost like his first bout and he's on like a 27 win streak now or whatever, 28. Like w- you got to just see it through. I mean, the fact of the matter, he's got one loss and he just beat Neil Magny on his debut. I mean, that's something Mike Mallet couldn't even do after his third UFC fight, whatever you want to say. So,
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on this one. So, again, shout out to him, shout out to Ukraine. As you had referenced on the last episode, a couple of good fighters getting graduated from Ukraine. Daniil Danchenko was in his corner for this fight. So, Ukrainians representing in combat sports, you love to see it.
yeah.
And I really was very impressed with this performance. I like the guy. I mean, I talked about it, him going into the active war zone to retrieve his belt over there in Ukraine. And he actually had a great quote from his post fight interview. Somebody had asked him about that incident and all that, and he was kind of talking to all fighters. He was basically saying, guy, kind of almost talking to Sean Strickland, but all fighters in general, saying like, you guys talk about this fight is going to be a war, this and that. Like maybe you should shut up a little bit because you don't want to talk about war like that when you've actually been in it. You can lose family members and friends and stuff. So maybe you have a little more reverence for actual war.
Yeah, I actually didn't hear the entirety of that quote. That is actually a bar, but I did hear the initial part. But like these guys want to say they go to war, but they've never been to. And I was thinking to myself, BSD says he goes to war. I like it. I'll stick with him.
There are levels to this when it comes to that, right? I mean, BSD is another dude who can claim that.
Yeah,
You know who
hell yeah.
else? Tim Kennedy. All right. Anyway, let's move on here. Good job, Amasov. Excuse me.
Yes, 100%. Don't bring up that fraud Kennedy ever again.
I don't know if you would catch that. All right, let's get into this next one because this was a weird one. This was one of two weird ones. This was King Green versus Lance Gibson Jr. This is the son of Lance Gibson, a veteran MMA fighter himself, who was in his corner for this one, and this was rather strange, I would say.
They call the fight weird or strange instead of just ass now. I don't know. I don't know what
Well,
anybody's.
explain why you thought it was bad, though.
Neither of them did anything. I mean, Bobby walked forward, Lance walked backwards. Bobby had his hands down, Lance had his hands up. That's the fight I saw. Did anybody do anything of relevance? No. No, not really. 3
Maybe
rounds
at
of
the
it.
very end, I thought that Green had a little moment there at the end. There was one takedown for Lance that was okay, but yeah, you are pretty on point with this one because this was very much like Green waiting for the counter and Lance dancing. I mean, this dude. There's one point I'll make now where Gibson's father, who I referenced there, they did the coach's cam. They'll do that little insert there, and his note was feet moving. This was in the third round. I said, brother, he has done nothing but move this entire fight. This is wild coaching for you to be saying feet moving right now after this dude has set the land speed record for lapping this octagon.
Yeah, no, this fight was, I mean, you're talking about Lance's feet, but Bobby's mouth was going 10 times faster than this.
That too.
That's the worst part about this. Like Bobby Green's style is fun when somebody's engaging with his fight. But if nobody's engaging with his fight, I'm just watching Bobby Green talk with his hands down and walk forward. It's like you're not even looking like you're attempting to fight. And I know that's obviously like his style, like put hands down, whatever you want to say, but like you're not even looking like you're engaging in the fight. At least when you have two people who are way too far at a distance, but they have their hands up, it's like, okay, they visually they're fighting. Bobby Green's just walking, he was on a treadmill basically, and then Lance is just circling him. And I mean, it should tell you how, you said strange and weird. It should tell you how bad it was that we had a split decision here. Like,
Crazy. Yes, this is wild. What I say about this, I say it often. The sport is about optics. The sport is about optics in a nutshell. Lance had some decent moments, but Green walking him down, commanding position, emoting, the chat was talking about the emoting being like a kryptonite kind of deal when in a fight like this, because it's like you're essentially sunning your opponent with this without having to do anything. So it's like Gibson, I never like to label anybody who makes the walk as fighting scared. It takes a different type of human being to get into a cage and fight with another person, no matter what the circumstances are. That being said, Gibson did seem to be apprehensive, and I'll be a little polite about that. He needed to do more for himself, but you're right. Bobby also needed to do more for himself. Go and get it. I talk about this. This is not your opponent's job to stand in front of you and get punched. You have to go and make the action happen. So this really was just like, two people who were kind of punching past each other, but not actually doing that.
yeah, Bobby Green is not somebody that I've been around watching since he was, 8-0 or whatever the fuck it is. Like, he's 33-17. I've seen him since he's been 33-16, whatever you want to say. Like, the last couple fights that I've seen him in, he puts on a performance. I've grown to respect what he does in the cage. This fight here, I can only blame Lance Gibson because I know what Bobby Green will do when the fight is brought to him. Lance Gibson just did not seem to he didn't see. I know it's short notice. I don't know why they wanted to. Again, you talk about how they just seem fixated on making certain fights happen. Bobby Green didn't have an opponent until like 5 days ago. And
Right.
then they just said, Lance Gibson, you're it. Like, get in there, kid. Have a good one. Slapped him on the ass. Like, so I can't really blame him too much because without a game plan, you can't. Not everybody is built to just go head first into the fire. If you don't have a game plan, some people just don't know what's going on.
Eh,
And
to that point, refresh my memory. Gibson, not a guy that we saw in the Contender Series, at least in this last go around. Not definitely not in this last go around. Was he on
I
the Contender Series at all?
no, he's from Bellator, and
So
then after that, he was on Excite Fight Muckleshoot.
all right. So to my point, it's like I just thought of that while you were talking about it, though. You make a good point without saying it. It's like we have a full roster of Contender Series guys that all proved themselves, and then for some reason, this is the guy that they find to be the one to come in. Like you don't think any of those other Contender Series guys at this weight class, or I mean, well, this was a catch weight even too. So I mean, they wouldn't have even had to make the weight
I
necessarily.
mean, I guess you're answering your own questions. This is the guy that said yes. I mean, they must have reached out to the Contender Series guys any other time they do. So maybe nobody said that they can make the weight, or maybe they weren't in town, or,
Sure. Yeah.
Lance Gibson in Canada, that's not that far of a trip to Vegas or whatever it is.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, either way, this was a strange one. There was not a lot of engagement. There was a whole lot of chirping, and ultimately a dissatisfying split decision win for King Green. Uh, okay, I guess. It was one of those kinds of deals where it was just like, yeah, that was kind of a thing that happened, and we all saw it, and that's about it, I guess.
I've seen Bobby Green earn wins. I don't love that. I'm gonna forget about it. He's 33-17 because he likes to fight. This is not the fight that I would say he wanted to have. Let me just put
Yeah.
it that way.
I mean, you want to talk about somebody having too much fun. We were just talking about Thompson. I mean, like that's what it seemed like with Bobby Green here. It's like he knew that this guy was no pun intended, but green. He knew that this was a dude just making his debut. He wanted to make this kid look foolish, and in a roundabout way, it kind of made himself look a little foolish. I would say. I mean, dude, if you're going to do that much chirping, if you're going the Kevin Holland route, you got to actually do the things that Kevin Holland does. I mean, like
True.
go in there and actually make something happen. He did not do that. Still got the win. Whatever. The only other note that I had on King Green when it comes to that, which I thought was pretty funny, is in his post-fight speech. I guess he has a nightclub now. I don't know if you picked up on that. He said, "Oh, let's everybody come celebrate New Year's at my club." Doesn't say the name of the club,
But to
dude.
be fair, that is a pretty fire thing. If you get a club in Vegas and you're only in the Apex because you're not like a pay-per-view guy anymore, you could literally just plug it right across the street. But either way, not saying the club is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, didn't you? Because I forget who you were talking about, but you were commenting on somebody having decent media training recently with their post fight, and I picked up on that. I'm like, yeah, somebody needs to give King Green a little bit of media training for his own marketing purposes.
Since you bring up the fact that Bobby had a post-fight speech, I did fail to mention way earlier in the card that Guillermo Pat had a post-fight speech.
He did. Was there
Yep.
something in there?
No, it's just the fact that he had one, he shouldn't have. That's all that I wanted to say.
Oh, the hypercritical chase on Guillermo Pat. Oh, well, either way, yeah, this was more so to this one, definitely, that this was a little bit crazy that they gave Green the post fight interview. But either way, what like I said, it was the thing that happened, and we all witnessed it. So
Yeah.
there you have it. All right, this was the
Speaking of
other.
witnessing it,
Yeah, again, if that was a weird fight, this was the other just very strange fight and puts one of these fighters in a terrible light. Now, this is Kennedy Nchezuku versus Marcus Buchecha. Um, I mean, Kennedy was a guy that I think both of us had a decent amount of stock in as a dude who went from light heavyweight to heavyweight. We were seeing some things that we liked in his move to the higher weight. This fight reframes Kennedy and Chezuku in a major, major way because we all saw what Marcus Buchecha did in his fight with Martin Budai. And I don't think anybody was impressed in any aspect of that. Somebody apparently informed Buchecha that as a BJJ champion who has won every competition under the sun, that he might want to try to grapple. So he did a little bit of that, but it's really more about how Kennedy reacted to everything because like, for a guy who nearly had this fight finished, not once, but twice, for this to be the way that this all went down for Kennedy and Chezuku is madness to me. I mean, like I really, you watching the watch along, I'm sitting there with my head just kind of like tilted to the side like a dog looking at an iPad.
yeah, no, this one's horrible. I mean, Kennedy, you suck, brother. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I saw you multiple times in this fight, like offensively wrestling against Buchecha. Why are you literally had his back at one point? Like you just like had the grip. It's like just let him go. Just stand up, let him go. He's already tired. He's already butt scooting because he doesn't want to continue the fight. We get an eye poke that literally takes a fucking point. Like I don't even know what was happening here because one Kennedy. What's funny about the eye poke too, and I know you maybe have a point about this, or you're maybe going to argue. Kennedy put his hands out, and yeah, he had his fingers out, but Buchecha literally put his face into the fingers. Like I'm just like,
No, yeah. Well, I mean, you are correct that that was how it went down, but this was textbook leading with the fingers. So, I mean, look, it doesn't matter where his head goes. If your fingers are in, they always say, either up or closed or up, right? That's, the referees say that often. This was a quality example of exactly why you do not lead with the fingers. I was okay with the point deduction. Again, this was Herb Dean ref in this fight. He was the one who said, we are going to be taking these things more seriously from now on. So,
we, as in he
yeah,
only,
you're
because
right.
nobody's ever done it.
Very good point. Very astute observation. We, as in me, when it came to Herb Dean on that one, but at least a man of his word. So I'll give him that. Um, yeah, the dynamics of this fight, even outside of the eye poke, were madness. So Kennedy, well, first of all, Buchecha goes for the heel hook in round one. You're the BJJ guy. Should you not have done better with that? Okay, you know what? Fine. He doesn't get it. This is fighting. Things happen. I'm not going to be too mad at that. Kennedy with the elbowing the thigh, the thigh strikes. I thought that you might have loved that. But either way, that doesn't work, right? Kennedy hurts Buchecha late in the round. Things were looking good for him going into the second round. If he could stay upright and foul free, then of course the blatant eye poke happens. Absolutely leading with the fingers, point deduction. Fine, no worries. Kennedy hurts Buchecha again. Buchecha goes to his back. Kennedy does the right thing. I am always saying, if the dude is hurt, stand him up. Kennedy did the right thing. Perfect. Buchecha immediately double legs him. Like, bro, you just let that happen. And then he just folded. Kennedy just folded. I'm telling, dude, you look at his body language and his posture. He is lucky that this fight was not stopped. He's sitting there taking unanswered shots.
I agree. There was actually a point that you're talking about where Kennedy just laid on his side with his hands over his head, and Buchecha just did not finish the fight. He just did not have the ability to just keep doing something. Like he just did not he refused. He literally just did not want to continue doing something.
Well,
It's
his
crazy to
his
me.
his cardio is awful. I mean, Buchecha's tank is terrible. I mean, this needs to be a known thing now. BJJ accolades aside, this dude is having to do a lot more moving than he would have to do in BJJ competition, in addition to striking, which is not his strong suit. Like, there are so many blatant holes that are being exposed fight over fight for Buchecha, and the gas tank is a huge one of them. But I mean, again, it's like, if he had stayed, he was trying. I'm actually kind of surprised it wasn't stopped because of
I
the
am
body
too, to
language.
be fair.
Like, if you go back and look at it, it was a good amount of unanswered shots, and Kennedy was doing nothing. I mean, it really looked like he had given up.
Fully
So
mounted.
yes, fully mounted, exactly. He was going with the elbows too at times. I was like, this is stop worthy if he wanted to do it. But whatever, Herb Dean lets it go. He survives. Kennedy ends up winning the first and the third, 10-8 round in the second. Fight becomes a draw. This was ridiculous. This whole thing was just such an absolute shit show. And like I said, reframes Kennedy and Chezuku in a way that I was certainly not expecting. I thought this would be a cakewalk for him.
Yeah, no, this fight sucked, and the fact it was a draw, valid. Thankfully, Buchecha doesn't walk out of here with a W. I'll tell you that, because he don't deserve a win in the organization. And Kennedy, he's got to go. He's got to go, man.
I
I'm
mean, I
done with
didn't.
it.
It's crazy to say that, considering that I thought for a time that he had a lot of the attributes that could make him very successful at heavyweight. But we're seeing a different crop of heavyweight now. Not Buchecha, but just in general, I'm talking
Mhm.
about. We're seeing a different version of heavyweight, a different archetype of heavyweight, and Kennedy just might not be it. So yeah, I mean, like you said,
Might?
huh?
No, it's might is crazy.
Yeah,
No,
right. Yeah, I mean, based on this, it's really hard to say otherwise. Kennedy's stock just swan dived off of a cliff with this one. But yeah, you say Buchecha not getting the win. I mean, Buchecha now advances to 0-1-1 in the organization.
I mean that's perfect. I mean he's not very good, so it's very valid.
Yeah, unfortunately so. So yeah, another very strange fight. This was the other leg of my parlay that didn't come through. So I was already dead off of Croton, and I'm happy that that was the case, because this would have just been a push. But either way, I was like, this is, I didn't even want this on anything.
Yeah, thankfully I did not take anything on this fight. I will tell you that I did take something on the next fight. So introduce this one. I'm gonna run to the restroom really quick.
All right, go for it. And then crazy fight for the restroom break, considering there's not a whole lot to talk about with this, but this is Melchizael Costa versus Morgan Charrier. There was a little bit of chirping in the chat during the watch along about Melchizael Costa with his vitiligo. As I said on the watch along, Melchizael Costa doing it for all of the people with vitiligo out there. And apparently, Brazil, one of the countries with the largest known cases of vitiligo. So he is in good company in that regard. Of course, Charrier is our Frenchman who at one time I was really backing. I thought that Charrier had a lot of great attributes. Uh, we might have been able to see some of them on display had what happened here not happened here, but either way, that is basically your setup for it. I mean, I'll tell it to you now while Chase is out of the room. But Costa walking out to Hakuna Matata was kind of funny, and I guess a good use of the ESPN partnership, as that is a Disney-owned property. So, maybe that was his last opportunity to do that. Who knows if he would have been able to do that during the walkouts for Paramount Plus? Maybe that would be something that they wouldn't allow. But that being said, as always, chat, considering that we come into these streams with a time where we get together, we talk things over, me and Chase beforehand, and have our little bathroom breaks before the stream starts. When Chase gets back, you are more than welcome to throw some L's in the chat for the bathroom break. All right, here he is.
I am so excited to talk about this one.
All right,
I
well, it's
can't.
thoroughly introduced, so go for it.
Good. The floor is mine because I've been saying for a while, everybody, if you are listening, Melly Costa is on the way to something great. And it's not like I can tell you that he's got the most elaborate story that you've ever seen, but sometimes some people are just able to make magic happen. And the reason, before I even get into this fight, somebody that I really think is similar to this in an aspect is, you brought him up earlier, Quillen Salkit. In his performance with Nasrat, he wasn't necessarily doing the greatest things. He wasn't winning the encounters, and then boom, just like that, just knocks him out. Just happens to just do it on a whim because he's just that good. Melly Costa, I think, is coming around to his own where he's pulling off the unexpected, and that's what's going to make him great. Is the things that you never saw coming from him. That's what's going to set him apart from everybody. This is a guy that's coming off of a 3-round war with Julian Erosa. You're sitting here questioning, can this dude even knock anybody out? Juicy J? Are we serious?
It's true.
He goes 3 rounds with the guy who's got, the most inconsistent chin of all time. And then in 1 round, he walks in, throws 1 body kick, and throws 1 high kick and flatlines a guy that hasn't been knocked out in like 10 plus years. Listen, it is impressive, yes, but the word to say is magical. Some people know how to make magic happen in the cage. And this is a guy that I've been telling you is going to represent the UFC by being the first UFC champ with vitiligo. He's on his way.
I knew it was coming. We talked a little bit about the vitiligo while you were out. But yes, you've heard of one punch knockout power. This is one kick knockout power for sure. And as I had kind of alluded to on the previous episode, Costa, a guy who I've never been like super sold on. I think that I might have to be evolving my thought process when it comes to this guy. He's been putting up some really good numbers, some good performances here. And this was a highlight reel performance right here. I mean, as far as the knockout goes, he came out of his shoes to throw it. We talk about banana peeling on this card. This was definitely one of them. Connected it flush, even with the slip. That thing hit like a firecracker. If you heard the audio of the replay, I mean, good Lord. And then, Charrier kind of helping things a little bit without knowing, but with the what the fuck angry face that he had when I mean, I feel for the guy. Obviously, he was knocked out. He didn't know where he was, but the image was certainly, it was noticeable. Either way, this was a really solid knockout for a guy, as you said, not necessarily one that you associate with knockouts, but now one that maybe you should be associating with well-roundedness because he's got the ability to submit people. This is the guy who had the jump gilly submission of Touchy Feely over here not too long ago, which certainly changed some perspective for me in other ways. I think that maybe Melly Costa might be a dude who I'm coming around to.
Well, that's really good. I really enjoy hearing that. I think this is somebody, he probably had a different game plan. And what I truly believe is when he came out, they were standing with each other, they're feeling each other out. He threw one body kick, and I made this key at the beginning. He threw one body kick, and it was so fast. It cooked him. It literally landed so flush in the stomach on Morgan. Morgan didn't show any, it didn't phase him. First body kick of the fight, no big deal, but it was Melly understanding the speed that he had on Morgan with the kicks. I go one to the body and I'll just rip it up top as quick as I can. And Morgan even blocked the kick. It was his hand that like knocked himself out. It was
Sure.
crazy to see, but Melly trusted in himself. That one body kick is all he needed just to know like I can catch him right then and there, and he did it. And to be fair, this is a dude who's not been knocked out in a really long time. This is not a guy who knocks people out with his hands, of course, but now we see he has the ability to kick very very well and very very accurately. I also specifically with Meli Costa, I love when you get post fight speech and you don't and people don't speak English as primarily. And so like they'll be saying stuff and like so it's like such and such 50K, such and such is a 50 grand. It's like such as it's like, okay, we get it. You want your 50 grand. I get it. I get it. You should have gotten it for this fight though. I don't you shouldn't have even need to ask for it. I think Dana probably felt some type of way after you started asking for it because this is a performance. Dude, everybody told me how dangerous Morgan was, and I understand. I thought this was going to be a harder fight than it was, but to dispose of him like that, when I go back to Sadiq Youssef and Diego Lopez, to just annihilate him in the first round. I just watched Sadiq Youssef go 3 rounds with Edson Barbosa in a war. Now looking back, probably makes sense, but at the time, Sadiq Youssef, Super Sadiq, that was no easy walk in the park. Diego Lopez walks in, uppercuts him, flatlines him. Same thing here. Morgan Shireen, however you say this dude's last name, I'm sorry, Morgan, but dude, you didn't deserve to be knocked out the way you did. But the fact is, Melky is on his way to get that belt. Vitiligo on top.
Yeah, well, not only just vitiligo, but apparently doing it for the kids. That was the big note that I had from the post fight. He was very emotional in his post fight speech. Um, I thought that maybe it was going to be about a family member, or we were on the cancer awareness card. There could have been something playing into that. Nope, it was pretty much just him saying that he was that emotional because he used to be the kid in the village watching the UFC, and now he's the guy in the UFC, and he's doing it for the kids back home in his village. So
See, he really does. You know, I don't know. I didn't actually catch that, but I do respect it. Like he could be standing for a lot of things right now.
yeah, yeah,
He
for
just he
sure.
just wants to be the guy that people look up to. That's
Right,
fine.
yeah, and I mean, with a performance like that, you certainly are making that the case to be that. So I can appreciate it. Uh,
Charriere. All right, we'll try
yeah,
our best.
yeah, Charrier. Uh,
Don't trick me now. All
yeah.
right,
Either way, I mean, he's a Canadian. He probably has a better
true.
grasp on the French. But yeah, hey, Melchizedek Costa, good deal
Damn, you
indeed.
cooked on his name. Man, Melky is all that I can get out of Meliquazel. I think I'm good for this.
I've had to train myself to be on top of that one, but yeah, good deal here. I mean, solid knockout. That's
I'm
all you can
I'm
really say about it.
I don't want to be and Milky. I'm not trying to his vitiligo. I don't know if you've noticed. Obviously he has certain patches that are still. He has like sideburns that are like I don't know if you didn't notice, check that out on the rewatch. Like the vitiligo is like kept him sideburns. It's kind of interesting. Like it's a cool look. That's why I'm bringing it
Yeah,
up.
he it manifests itself differently for every person who experiences it. So yeah, I mean, he can. We've talked about this in the past. Everybody's got their something. He can certainly be the one doing it for all of our friends with vitiligo.
The one last thing I'll bring up, and I think I've mentioned this before on this specific podcast because what other podcast would I bring it up on? Brazilian tattoo artists. They can do faces like no other. This dude's tattoo on his chest, I cannot get over. Like I look at it and I'm like, I could see that dude out on the street. Like that's like the most it's not even like the most detailed face either. Like when you look at it, it's like something's missing, but like it's him. Like I'm looking right at that guy. I don't know. It's
I
weird,
can
man.
appreciate it. Hey, yeah, shout out to all of the quality tattoo artists out there in Brazil.
Oh yeah,
Maybe from his village. Maybe that, he's crying for him too.
true.
It could be, but either way, good deal here. Keep doing what you're doing, Melky Costa. I'm taking note now.
Oh yeah.
All right. Well, next up, I'm going to talk about fights where not a lot happened. This the Croden and Santos fight in male form here. This was Cesar Almeida versus Cesare Olashechuk. I mean, I really don't have all that much to say about this fight. This was 3 rounds of Cesare laying on top of Almeida, and that's about it. The one thing I will say is I saw Toby in the chat earlier. He did make a good point saying that if this was a dude from Dagestan, everybody would be glazing this performance. I was curious what your opinion on that was. I had my own feelings on that, but I bring that up to say that there really was not much to talk about in this fight.
That specific comment was also said, if her name was Luana Santanov,
Right.
people would love her. They already love her. I disliked her. Whatever. This performance right here, though, his name can be Cesare Olajeszak, and I really enjoyed it. I thought, in my opinion, well, let me get again. There's not much that I will say about a lot of this fight because again, it was just Cesare laying on top of him. But there are a couple key things. One, he looks like Nicholas Dalby. Did you
I,
not look at this picture right here and tell me that is not Nicholas Dalby on ESPN right there? That,
I mean, I could see it a little bit. It wouldn't be like the first thing that I go to though.
but I for sure wouldn't be like, oh, that looks like Michael Olasheshuk. Like, isn't that, you
Yeah,
know?
true. Yeah, it may be. Either way, I probably would have liked to see Nicholas Dalby in this fight if I had the had the option.
The other thing that I will note is that Cesare, the way that he fights in the stand up, I know he didn't do it much, and I know he likes to wrestle apparently, but the times that he was standing up, the way that he strikes, he fights like Yuri. And I don't want to say that that is a great thing so far because Yuri, again, we see him lose 2 rounds and then he'll come back and win. If he fights, and that's probably a credit to Yuri not fighting as technical as boxing and kickbox. It's all science for a reason. Yuri's just able to chat his way through a lot of shit. Is Cesare going to be able to have this loosey goose type of style on the feet and it work out for him when he doesn't control his person on the ground for 12 minutes or whatever the case is right here? Cesar Almeida is a great striker, very technical, very credentialed kickboxer. There's a reason that you probably shouldn't stand with him, and I agree 11 minutes of control time. I mean, that's a lot more than you probably should have needed to rack up if you're going to wrestle with him, but I thought on the feet I saw what I see with Yuri, and I didn't think it was a great thing coming from Cesare here because he didn't utilize it the best.
I mean, I'm just curious where you even got that from, considering I don't care what the control time number says. I mean, this fight was all on the ground. I mean, like there was brief, and I'm talking very brief time on the feet. So like to get any impression of like
No,
what it would be like in the big picture.
it's not the way Yuri fights, like with his heart. It's his actual stand up, the way that he throws punches, the way that he resets, the way that he does has his
I
hands
mean,
out by his side.
you must have seen that real quick then, I guess. Because it only was
That's
there for a minute.
well, it was about 4 minutes.
No,
Come
but
on,
that's what I'm
man.
saying. The control time number does not account for all of the time it takes to get to the ground, the time that he's not fully in control that they're
But I
giving to him. I mean,
But I'm
you
not
know,
disagreeing with you because I remember saying it. I'm like, holy shit, this dude, I can see Yuri here. And then he went to the wrestling, and then I never really saw it again. But when the moment I saw him standing, he threw a kick, and and Yuri has a specific way that he throws his back kicks, and it's very interesting the way that it's very slow, it's very telegraphed, but they work. And when Cesare threw his kick, I was like, that right there is, and then he has his hands down, and it was Yuri. I'm telling you, it's gonna age a little more. I saw the overlap in the data,
all
but
right.
Cesare, on the other hand, I mean, he wrestled. I didn't. I like this performance because we know how dangerous Caesar can be on the feet. He's a very methodical striker. When it is on the feet, he's there. He's locked in. He's waiting for you to make the mistake. Take him down. Just don't even fuck around with him. Just take him down. Just don't even play with him. He's
Well,
a
yeah.
glory kickboxer. He beat Alex Pereira. you are on your way to get a rematch with Shara Bullet. Fuck Cesar, man. Get him out of here, you know.
Yeah, no, I mean, if that was the game plan and the knowledge coming in, then he certainly accomplished that mission because, yeah, I mean, Cesar Almeida starfishing this entire fight, basically. There was one chance that he had in the third round. He got that elbow to the dick slash knee to the forehead double foul situation that was there for a second, gets stood up, takes the position away, Kerry Hatley did, and then Almeida just gets right back to being taken down. I mean, this is just like, okay, dude, you know, you very much accepted that you are going to be on your back for this fight if that's how things are going. So, way to make a debut, I suppose, for Cesare, but that is about all I got for this because, I mean, you know, we said on the Contender Series that, you know, this was another one where he came in and got a really quick knockout, so it was hard to get an impression of what we would be looking at in the actual fight. This is exactly why anytime that we talk that way about any of these debuting fighters who come off of the Contender Series, think of this fight because we saw a guy come in here, starch his opponent on the Contender Series, and this was the type of performance he had in the actual organization. So I think that it all tracks. Not a bad win based on what you're saying. I guess it was certainly not exciting, but overall, a win's a win's a win, I guess.
The questions that I have going forward, because again, I said this from the jump. Cesar Almeida 7-1 doesn't have that much pro mixed martial arts experience, let alone wrestling or grappling. I mean, he's Brazilian, so of course he graduated middle school with a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt or something. But where do we gauge what Cesare was able to not do against somebody like Cesar Almeida? If Cesare is able to hold down his next opponent, is he going to be able to fish for those submissions because they're not as good as Cesar? I don't think so. I think Cesar Almeida is just not very good on his back. I think he was lucky that Cesare was not the submission artist that could get something done. I even had Cesare by submission on verdict. So the fact that he had 11 minutes and 15 seconds of control time and didn't get the submission hurts my soul because I had 600 XP on that thing too.
Feel you.
But either way, I think going forward, we know who his brother is. We know these are strikers at heart. The wrestling is just a product of him wanting to get a victory in his debut, I would say. We know he wants to strike. I think in his next performance, just be ready for him to go back to striking. He's not a wrestler. That's just he's got to be in the promotion with his brother. That's what's driving him. He can't come out here and take a risk of striking with a glory kickboxer because if he loses, he's not in the promotion with his brother anymore. You know, like that's where you got to remember like he's only here because I need to be in the promotion with my brother. Like so that's I don't know. It's key, I think.
Well, there's levels to the brothers game. We know this very much from the Jourdains. So I prefer that over this. But again, he got the win. Let's see what he does in his next fight. Another one that I kind of just chalk up to a fight that happened. And, you know, you'd like a little bit more out of the brothers duo if they are both going to be representing the family in the organization. But either way, like I said, win's a win, and I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and to shout out the chat real quick because we appreciate you guys for rocking with us the entire time. I don't know who this Clavicar guy is, but I've definitely seen the clip. So go ahead and let us know real quick in the chat, and we'll continue moving on. But I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
But
I do not know what they're talking about. So if this is a clip that I need to see, please put it in the Discord and I will check it out at some point.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. Moving on to the next fight here on this card. This was Giga Chikadze versus Kevin Vallejos, another highlight worthy knockout here. And it was funny. We were talking about the Melquizael Costa knockout and saying how, like, you know, this probably was not the game plan. Kevin Vallejos put out a very funny tweet after this fight saying, "Damn, I really pulled that out of my ass." And I was like, you know, whatever gets the job done is what you do. Because early on in this fight, the way I will set this up is that Giga Chikadze, what we had talked about on the previous episode, very heavy with his kicks. He has a very strong kick game. That was on display. Vallejos took a couple of kicks. This was not him without any noticeable effect when it came to getting some damage on him. I mean, it's not like the kicks were damaging him, but he took some shots. He was not unaffected in this fight. That was Giga laying the kicks on like he always does. And I also agreed with Dean Thomas saying that Vallejos needed to get more active. This was in the second round that this knockout happened, later in the second round even. And in that first round, I thought that Vallejos looked like he was holding back a little bit. It didn't look like he was really going after it. He's a very high level boxer with really good technical striking. Didn't see enough of that. I wanted to see more of that as the fight progressed. So whatever the case may be, as far as like game planning or otherwise, you do what you did here. You get a spinning back fist knockout and follow it up with some ridiculously fast shots and then ground shots. Vallejos, kind of negates all of what we had talked about earlier. Really impressive knockout in the big picture.
Well, I mean, this goes back to what I was saying. I mean, Kevin Vallejos, but Hayos, whatever they got it going down there, they listen. He proved everything that I was saying about certain fighters. There are certain fighters that get matched up to people. You are a knockout guy. You go against a guy who's never been knocked out. That's the stylistic matchup. It's not striker versus wrestler. No, it's decision merchant versus guy who finishes. Guy who's never been finished, guy who finishes. Guy who wrestles, guy who grapples. Whatever you want to say. These are the matchups that are needed to be made. And I knew I listen. I knew this was listen, Giga has a good first round. He always does. He's getting older, so that's about all that he can give left is that first round. Look at David Onama. He gave him 3 rounds, and David Onama was not able to finish him. I've been telling you guys, good fighters, the UFC is waiting for them around the corner. They're giving them the opportunities to make the names for themselves. Kevin Vallejos is the first one to finish Giga Chikadze on feet. That means something. He's somebody who, as Kevin, references, is a great fighter, a Hall of Fame, whatever you want to say. They obviously boast a little bit when it comes to this stuff, but Giga is somebody that Kevin should finish if he wants to be him. If he wants to be great, he finishes Giga, gets him out of there. First round, give it to Giga. I mean, he was more active, cut his leg open, but who cares? He was still doing his stuff, kicking Kevin. And even towards the beginning of the second round, Kevin was once again losing, not doing anything. He's standing way too far on the outside. I know the commentary wants to glaze, I got this small, compact body. I can protect all the, you're way too far away. You're way too far away. You have no reach, and you're standing at kicking range with Giga. I even brought up Mike Tyson. When I watch this dude, I'm like, it's been way too long. Mike Tyson was short as hell, and he knew how to like rip and get to the inside with his boxing. Kevin Vallejos didn't do anything to get any entries with his boxing. That's what was the uninteresting part about this. Him him losing to Jean Silva makes so much sense now because he does not know how to range strike with his size or with his stature. He's not somebody that can just break inside and start unleashing a combo. We do talk about how he fights like Ilya. He has that Ilya stature. Whatever you want to say. Ilya will get to the inside and rip heavy combos. Kevin Vallejos will get you up against the cage and pull a spinning elbow out of his ass. Like there's differences here. And I agree, this was the finish that I knew he should get, could get, would get. But I would have liked to see you do it with a little more poise. Like you walk in there, you get him up against it, just like Ilya did with Volk. That's the exact situation you had right here. You had Giga emote and like, come on, bring it on, and then you flatline him. The ground and pound was probably the more impressive situation because the instinct that he had to finish him there, like right then and there. He's on the ground, face down, finish him, elbows, ground and pound, whatever you want to say. That was the more impressive part. The elbow itself, honestly, wasn't even an elbow. I know spinning back fist is what ESPN have it, but it wasn't even that. Like it wasn't. People in the Discord were talking about how great Kevin's striking is. Again, the first round didn't do much. Up until the finish, he wasn't doing much. His striking wasn't that good up until it was. Then that spinning, it wasn't, it was a forearm. It didn't land with the elbow. It didn't land with the fist. He just clubbed him with a forearm, knocked Giga off his balance, got him to the mat, and Giga landed like a fucking Looney Tunes character. Shout out to him. I mean, landed with both of his arms behind his back. I don't even know what happened there. But then Kevin Vallejos, the instinct that the fight is finishing right here, right now. That is the most impressive part of the finish. But when it comes to the actual setup of the finish, he was doing nothing that was going to get that until he just pulled it out of his foot. Like again, I know he's kind of bullshitting a little bit, pulling it out of his. He does train a spinning back strike of
He had
some
tried it
sort.
earlier in the fight too.
Right, exactly. Whatever you want to say, I just genuinely think the signs are there of why a rangy striker like Jean Silva should be able to beat him over 3 rounds, and that's exactly what we saw. And that was earlier in the career, and that's somebody who just got finished by the guy who's fighting for the belt. So where do you where do you total these things at? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I do see a lot of what you're saying with all of that. You are right. He does need to be able to get inside more and just be comfortable on the inside. That's a big note for all of this because really this is a great example of it in this fight. Like the way that he has that outside the comfort level being as far outside as he is, that's why Giga was able to land the kicks. Giga wants to be at that range. He wants to be specifically at kicking range because he is a kicker. So it makes sense that he was navigating that way. You have to get past that and get on the inside and start laying some shots on. And up until the shot that actually finished the fight, that was concerning. So I think that you're definitely accurate in saying that there is some concern there for other fighters who he's going to be going up against who are not going to be Giga and who are going to bring the fight to him in a different way. That's going to be a case by case thing, I would say. It depends on who they match him up with and what those circumstances are. But being what it is for this one, it was certainly impressive in the moment. The shot landed a little bit more flush than I think you're giving it credit for. But yeah, the emoting was not emoting, but like just the optics of how Giga went down was actually kind of scary. I mean, he
Mhm.
was eyes wide open, and that's always just a really odd image, an unsettling image, I would say. This dude's taking unanswered shots, eyes wide open. That's literally beating a dead horse. But good deal for Vallejos in the big picture. I understand the concern.
Yeah, see, and Hydra, I'm not upset. I can see that he was not like, same with Lerone Murphy and Aaron Pico. Lerone was not winning that first round. I mean, he was getting manhandled for the most of it, getting anything that Pico wanted, he was getting. And then Pico made the mistake, walked into a spinning elbow. That's fine. It's not like Giga walked into anything here. And I'm not saying that Kevin is not one of my favorite prospects, but there's still work to be done. This is
Yeah, no,
not a finished project
that's what I was
prospect.
saying. I think that you're raising very valid concerns here because I mean, like if you really go back and watch the amount of distance that he keeps, especially as a guy as small as he is. Like I mean,
Mhm.
they on commentary were saying, oh, he reminds me a little bit of Ilya, but like you said, that's the big differentiator there is that Ilya is not going to allow that level of distance to the end that his opponent is able to land as many kicks as Giga did. That's how I started this whole thing. Giga came in with a solid game plan like he always does, which is kick heavy. So if you allow your opponent to do the thing that he does best, he's going to do it. And
Mm,
like he was lucky that none of those kicks affected him in any major way. I think that's I guess a credit to his conditioning, a credit to his confidence and all of that. But anytime that you are allowing your opponent to be in the sweet spot, there is potential that the same kick that knocked out Morgan Charrier very well could have knocked him out, even with the
true.
block. So I'm just saying, like, I think that the concerns are valid with Vallejos. We're going to have to see what, again, I think it really is very dependent on who he is matched up against and how he reacts to that individual. I would like to see a little bit more consistent activity out of him. It shouldn't always be looking for a highlight. Not that he was looking for this, like you said, he made it happen. That's great that it happened, all of that. But like, it shouldn't be him waiting for the exact right shot. He needs to be grittier than that.
See, and Hydra, I know I'm so critical, but like if you want somebody to like if you want to understand who's going to be the greatest, who's going to be the best of the best, I think a lot of the things that I'm saying are valid. I mean, I even said if Kevin's going to be him, he should finish Giga, and he did. So he is him. If he was him squared, he would have just walked in there and done it in round one. That's all I'm saying. No, but like he did do it. That's all that I'm saying. He did do it, and he is still 17-1. He's a very hot prospect. But for me to overlook a lot of these things, especially if he goes up against another rangy striker, I won't forget that Giga was having his way for the first round, which I expected. Let's not forget. I expected good first round from Giga. Kevin finishes. So
Yeah,
it went his way.
and I said, what you're hearing here is that, it sounds critical, but it's tough love. You know what I mean?
Thank
That's
you.
I think that that's really what it comes down to, and that's why I respect it. I think that you have an expectation because we're all what we often are doing on this show in general is the reason that we are breaking down each and every fight every week is because any one of these guys could be on the path to being the next champion. So we are recognizing the patterns and the things that you see either out of people who need to improve certain things or the people who are potentially going to be the next wave of the greatest of this sport. So I think that all of it tracks. And, even if it comes out a little bit differently between the two of us, I think that it's very valid, Chase. So I will stick up for my co host on this one.
I've always tried to work in, like, what it would be. Is it the 4 or 5 C's? You got the cardio, the creativity, the charisma, the confidence, all of these things make a champion. I don't know. There's just certain things about certain fighters that stick out to you as really good things, and then bad things that good fighters don't. There's good fighters that still do bad things, and there's a reason that they're not great. So when you see somebody that hasn't done those bad things yet, you want to have hope that they can not fall into the same traps as those good fighters do, if that makes sense.
Sure does. Sure
Yeah,
does. No, I mean, you talk about the five C's. I would also like to add the two B's, which
nice.
is big boners. Shout out to Concrete.
There we go.
All right. That being said, I mean, I think we talked it through. Good win for Vallejo's. Things to be aware of, but there's nothing to say that this is not a train that should keep on going. Just know that. Also, that's another thing for you guys out there listening is that we're trying to also help inform your parlays sometimes
Mhm.
on these. Your betting perspective as well. Just know that Vallejos, if he's got a longer rangy opponent, that might be something to keep an eye on. Those
True.
kinds of things. So that all being said, shout out to Kevin Vallejos doing it for Argentina as
Hell
well.
yeah.
Argentina, a country that is graduating some tremendous strikers.
Yeah, we finally got Eileen Perez fight news. She will be fighting 1 year away from when she fought last, so crazy.
Certainly wasn't who I was referencing there, but shout out to Esteban Rivabex.
Hell
But
yeah.
yeah, no, cool. Do they have an opponent for her?
I forgot it already. It's not even worth mentioning.
All right. Well, then we won't.
Oh,
We'll
Macy
talk.
Chiasson.
Oh, yeah. God, yeah, yeah. That's might be a death knell for Chiason at this point. We'll talk about that when it comes up. That being said, let's talk about the main event of the evening and the last fight of the ESPN era. This is Brendan Royval versus Manel Kape. To start this thing off, I don't know if you noticed, Chase, on Manel's walkout, him nearly walking down the wrong hallway and the cameraman
It
having to.
happens too often. How do they not understand that that's not the way to go? Like, they see a curtain and they start pulling on it, and they're like, No, it's the curtain's open over there." It's like, what do you think you're doing? We
Yeah.
saw Mateusz Gamrot literally almost ran into the crowd. Like, what are people doing on their walkouts? Like,
Very strange, very strange. But yes, him having the cameraman have to point him to the right direction to the entryway was certainly funny. Another noticeable thing, which I'm sure that we'll talk about in detail at some point, but Manel Kopp, uh, we've said noticeable potential gynecomastia, and what I picked up on, and this was after we had talked about the initial spat of it, but the chat was talking a lot about the acne on his arms. I also noticed this was back when he ended up on the commentary desk. They'll bring the fighters into the desk with Karen Bryant and all that crew. He's got acne on his face as well. So I mean, we're talking a lot of signs of PED use and potential picograms that came up in my research from years past as well. So just putting that out there in the ether for all of this. Either way, perhaps it's cope, perhaps it's excuses, whatever. Manel Kopp coming in here, getting the job done early, making this thing a quick evening.
yeah, I wouldn't. This one definitely is a disappointing finish, but it was a good finish. It definitely solidified what I believe is the title picture going forward. Um, but it was unfortunate for Brandon Royval because I know this is one of my favorite fighters, and I know we all have those random. To me, Brandon Royval's not a random, but we all have those random fighters that are just our favorites for no reason that we'll stick up for absolutely anything. Brandon Royval is somebody who is very deservingly of the love. Like, this dude has been at the top of the division for long enough. There's a fact: all 12 of his opponents in the UFC have all been ranked. I mean, that should say something. He's worth having, setting aside time to think about and how good he is in the flyweight division. He's worth it. But this fight here, unfortunately, he did get caught. And people will argue it's Brandon Royval. You got to let him fight longer than that. I just talked about a couple weeks ago. We should not have special, circumstances for different fighters. Just because it's Brandon Royval does not mean you need to stop the fight sooner or earlier, as if it was Giga Chikadze. Different. It should not be differences in the refereeing because this is health and safety protocols. It's not. I don't know.
Yeah. Also, if you go back and watch that stoppage, which I watched it several times at this point, I mean, Manel clipped him with a quick right hook. Royval crumbled at that point. He went out for a second, legitimately. I mean, he was also eyes open for a second there. Came back too. Yes, I will give you that. He did come back while he was being swarmed, but that's a fine stoppage to me. I mean, if he was out, he was out. Come on, guys.
The best, I think, for me personally, I can come to grasp with a stoppage. I can say they made the right call. Is if I can't decide if it was early or if it was too late, because this one right here, he did go out, and I will say he went out, and there was some extra shots coming, and he stepped in, and the fight got stopped. But I I genuinely don't know if I've seen somebody so not affected by clearly being unconscious. Like, I watched him go out and then the lights come back on, but
It is
then
true. He did pop right back up, but I mean, you can't fault Herb Dean for seeing him
right.
go out. I mean, this is
And
what it
and
is.
that's and that's my point. I think it was a good stoppage because as I am seeing a man who's, giving a high five to his opponent, he's like telling the refs like I'm okay, like the doctor's like I'm fine, like they shouldn't have stopped it. I'm seeing that. But I am understanding that I just saw you go lifeless for it may have been a split second, but you genuinely were unconscious. So
Sure.
it was a good stoppage because I can't tell you if it was too early or too late, and I think I stand by that reasoning for it. I mean, if you genuinely don't know if you woulda gave it a second or longer, they did a good job, yeah, making the judgment call.
Yep.
So
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, really not a whole lot to even really talk about with this fight. It was so quick. This was another one where, it was a lot of movement. Royval had one solid body kick, I believe, but that was about it. Royval did slip and look down at one point. Commentary thought he might have had an injury to a toe or something like that, but to me, it just looked like a slippery mat. Didn't really even matter in the big picture, obviously. And damn, Cop didn't even have a chance to be a dirtball in this fight.
I'll tell you what it really was. Well, that was actually a point going forward, going into this fight. Is like they took a point immediately after one eye poke from Kennedy. Could that have been a deciding factor of what was going to happen in this fight? We obviously didn't get to find out, but if Manel would have done one eye poke, point taken right then and there, and that would have just changed the trajectory of this entire fight.
Sure.
But that didn't end up happening. One thing that I will say that Manel did, this was the game changer. He was catching the kicks. Brandon Royval was throwing so many kicks early on, and Manel was catching every one of them and just shoving him backwards. It worked for him. I thought it was a very good, and then eventually just went over and knocked him out. This is a guy, 16 first round finishes for a flyweight, 17 now, I think is what it is, something like that. It's pretty impressive. Somebody who genuinely needs to be looked at, but if he's been ducking USADA and stuff like this, man, I don't know. I mean, the signs are all there.
Well, let me just at least say this because I was going to talk about this at some other point, but I did reference it, so I will say I believe it was UFC 275. I was doing a little research on this, and Manel Cop, much like John Jones, is a person who was cleared to fight. So got around any kind of sanctioning or any kind of disciplinary action, but is also a person who has picograms in his system. He has the metabolites, they call them, of prior PED use. Not enough to warrant, any kind of what I just referenced there of any kind of a suspension or anything like that by USADA standards, at least. Who knows now with the new organization, but obviously they let him fight. So there must be, within that standard as well. I got to believe he's being tested like everybody else. But this
Where's
is
his jacket? Where's his 120
uh,
clean piss tests, huh?
you
Peter
know,
Young got his.
you're cooking. I mean, that's what I'm saying. So, just something to keep in mind because this is a this is definitely a narrative that is going around. I mean, there was that very funny meme image going around before this fight of Manel Kape wearing the female top, the the support bra there for those very large man breasts that he has. And like I said, the acne is not only on his arms and back, but also on his face. These are all signs of PED use. I'm
I
I'm never the person, and if you recall, Chase, I specifically went out of my way to apologize to Josh Emmett when I had talked about the rumors surrounding him because he has never been caught cheating, and that's just a rumor that was in the community. These are all rumors in the community. However, the 275 information lends a little bit more credibility to those rumors.
You know what's crazy is there will be tweets oftentimes that'll show you like the amount of times that somebody's been drug tested in a year or whatever. And
Right.
sometimes you'll see that people who haven't competed in 2, 3 years, they'll have drug tests from this current year. And it's like, what are you doing? Why are we not able to send out requests for them to drug test certain people? Like, if you were going to sit here and drug test Peter Yan 121 times in the last 3 years, mate, you couldn't have done 120 and then fucking gave me one test on Manel Cap. Like, I'm just confused there.
No, look, what they'll tell you is that's because of the random nature of the drug testing. Some people just come up, their numbers are just pulled more often or whatever. I I did an entire video on the breakup of USADA and the UFC that opened my eyes to a lot of how the drug testing works within this sport. I certainly am a skeptic in some ways. What I always say is, as long as the fighters have not been popped, I can't confirm or deny. I want to give fighters the benefit of the doubt, but when you see as many warning signs as you see with Manel Kape, we didn't even talk about the third warning sign, which is the fact that roid rage is a real thing, and Manel Kape is about as hot-headed as you can possibly get. All I'm saying is I see a lot with the guy when it comes to that. That's where I will leave it for now until something more conclusive comes out. But again, the picograms certainly are a more smoking gun than anything that you've got from most of the other fighters that you would be talking about here.
Well, speaking of fighters that we're talking about, clearly we have to talk about the title picture and Joshua Van, who is now the champion of the flyweight division. Now, I don't know if you were sticking around for Manel Cap's post-fight speech here.
Sure
I'm going to
was.
go ahead and give my best rendition of what I memorized from it. He says, "Baby, I'm your daddy. I'm here to take your diapers. Your daddy here to take your diapers. You hear? I take your diapers." That's basically what I heard there. And when
Impressive.
somebody tweeted, "I don't think daddies take the diapers," I did start to think, what is he talking about?
They administer the diapers.
Yeah, they're not taking the diaper. They give the diapers, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Hmm, I don't know.
Yeah, well, either way, I mean, valid criticism there, but he did call out Joshua Van. So, what does this mean? I mean, we know Tatsuro Taira is waiting in the wings after a nice win over Brendan Moreno. That seems to be the logical thing there. Would there be a world where this makes sense for that to be the jump over?
I tell you yes, and why. Um, yes, because either way, Pantoja has a rematch for his belt. He has faced Manel Cap already. It was Manel Cap's debut, actually, which is crazy to think about.
Ah, interesting.
Joshua Van obviously just beat Pantoja by TKO, broke that dude's arm like no other. But so either way, if they do a Manel Cap and Josh Van, it is a very interesting matchup. I mean, clearly people will show up for it. Manel has claimed that he is bigger in Japan than Tyra. So whatever, we'll see.
Look, the squeaky wheel gets the grease often, and Manel Kopp is a big talker. He is a person who commands the spotlight when he is on the microphone. He's got a lot to say. He is a very antagonistic. He's got a
Mhm.
personality, which I believe is really his own personality. He's one of these people that you want to talk about authenticity in this sport. I think that what you see is what you get with this guy, which is why I think he's a little bit of a menace in general. But that
Little
being said,
goblin. He's just a little troll,
yeah,
you know.
very much so, and but a dangerous one at that. So, Tyra, unfortunately, perhaps maybe suffering a little bit from the lack of language. When it comes to speaking English, maybe not able to be as electrifying in a personality as Cop, but also. Cop with all of those finishes, I mean, the case is kind of being made here. Now, there was a very funny meme that I did see saying it was you got to respect Manel Cop's record, and it was just the list of all of his canceled fights,
Yeah.
all of that little spat of losses that he had. I mean, like there are a lot of circumstances with Manel Cop that I think would be on the negative side. However, you come in, you knock out a perennial favorite when it comes to Brendan Royval. What you said about Royval is my exact feelings. I mean, he's been one of my favorite guys to watch for a very long time in the most exciting division in the sport, in my opinion. Like there are a lot of benefits to a Manel Cop title shot. If they want to do it, I think it does make sense. And unfortunate for Tyra, if that's the case, he's just going to have to sit and wait.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, though I mean, he definitely moved the needle. I will tell you that we talk about needle movers, and he definitely leapfrogged is what I would say there.
Indeed. So either way, I mean, not much else to talk about with the fight itself. Title picture being what it's going to be, we'll have to see what they want to do that way. And that really wraps up everything. I mean, that's unless you got anything else you want to talk about with that fight specifically.
Yeah, this fight specifically, the last comment is, "I'm bigger in Japan, trust me, because I'm the only guy telling you this repeatedly in English."
Yes, there you go. I
He should
mean,
have said "ni hao" to finish or
yeah,
whatever.
right. Or, I mean, it's you either get that or you get I'm very happy, thank you. Like, what are you
Yeah.
going to take out of the two of those? Unfortunately, I mean, you got to recognize the reality of the boots on the ground there.
I mean, and, you go back to Islam with Charles, like, "This guy doesn't speak English, brother," you know? So, he's got a point, even though he really just said 4 different things, you know? So,
Four different things that were not the same.
yeah.
They equal up differently. So, any which way, I guess that brings us to the end of UFC Fight Night. Royval versus Cop. Excuse me. After talking this card through, Chase, what do you think?
It's unfortunate that this is the card that ended the Apex. Or not
You
the
think
Apex,
so?
but the not ended the Apex, but
Well,
the ESPN era,
yeah.
excuse me. It's unfortunate because, run-of-the-mill Apex card for sure. I mean, it's as when I say these are performances that I'm not gonna forget going forward, but the Apex as a whole, it's gonna just get slotted into the Apex events that are decently, decent, So I'm not gonna be sitting here and be like, "Man, does everybody remember that fight night with Royval and Cop?" I mean, there was some good performances, but I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna sit here and talk about this one. Apex 100 was cool, but I can't tell you 7 fights that happened off the top of my head, like, so, you know.
Yeah, I always look at that a little differently because it's like go by the actual fights as opposed to the card itself. There were some impressive performances, and I do think that those will be the things that do stick out from it. I thought it was a fine way for all this to end. I mean, as far as the ESPN deal goes, another thing that we didn't mention on all of this was how much they were thanking ESPN, and there were a lot of promo packages and things going over the whole history between the organizations. This is almost 7 years of a partnership between UFC and ESPN. So I guess 7 year packages are generally what they do, as that's the same that they are going to be doing with Paramount. So end of an era, and that's certainly to be acknowledged. I thought it was an okay way for all of that to happen here. Some things did not go the way that I would have liked them to happen, but overall, pretty entertaining, pretty good. I'm a fan of the Apex and the Apex cards, so maybe I'm just a jolly soul. It's the holiday season, how can you not be a little bit
Yeah,
festive?
true. Yeah.
So,
Apexmas
there you go.
definitely hit. Yeah, for sure.
Indeed. And, we're going to be looking forward towards what we got coming down the pike, of course. That being said, I mean, we do not have fights for 6 weeks. Again, we are entering MMA winter, but that does not mean that we will be without content around here. You guys may recall from last year that we do a year end wrap up show that Chase and I are going to be brainstorming and formulating thoughts for. In fact, if you are a member of the Discord, we are going to be asking a couple of questions as far as what you thought about the year, a couple of things that we'll be throwing in there to get some feedback on. So make your voices heard on any of those polls that you might be seeing or any of those discussions, of course. And we've got MMA on Film, which is a series that myself and Chase do, reviewing in great detail MMA media from film to television, documentaries, and the like. We have a couple episodes of that already out, and we're getting ready to start our next next one. Going to be some streams going on as well, perhaps some other organizations that we'll be doing watch alongs for, myself at least. And, like I said, there's always going to be something going on. So if you are going to be hurting for MMA content during MMA winter when UFC does not have fights, know that you can still get your fix around these parts.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, this is I love doing this. Every year's a new adventure, of course, and I can't wait to talk about more fights. And for these next 6 weeks, it's not gonna be, it's not gonna be the same fight game, guys. We're gonna have to figure some new stuff out. So please leave a comment. Let us know if you have some ideas of what we need to get going for this break. If there's any topics that you need us to talk about, or if there's any sort of genres of categories of things that we need to go over for the end of the year, make sure to leave a comment.
Indeed. So yeah, and briefly before we wrap things up, just to reference what the chat was talking about, what is this clavicular?
So it is a YouTuber that I've never heard. I assume a YouTube social media of some sort,
Okay,
and he went to some gym, and he like the dude that was like there bringing him along. He was like, "Yeah, we're just gonna have you wrestle with this guy," and then they like grappled for a second, and then he ends up like putting him in a submission, and the dude taps. It wasn't anything like super egregious. The dude was just like a dick about it. Like
okay.
he was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna submit you, dude, just because you make those stupid videos on YouTube." And then like they grappled for a second. Honestly, it's not like if I went in there and like grappled somebody. This is clearly somebody who has like experience doing something, because it
Okay.
was a decent struggle for a minute, and then he takes his back, and then he taps, and then he lets him go, and then he's like, "Yeah, that's for making those stupid videos or something." And then people went fucking crazy about it.
Yeah, so this is just another instance of the Sean Strickland style. I don't like influencers in the space, so I'm going to make them look bad kind of thing.
Let's see. Looks maxing loser says martial arts isn't real and was beefing a BJJ autist.
Ah, okay. So maybe there's a little bit more to the backstory there. All right.
Mm,
Well, I guess like I said, if you throw the video in the Discord, I will certainly take a look at it, and maybe we'll talk about it at a future date here. But I just wanted to at least reference it since it came back up several times. That being said, I would also like to give a big shout out to the chat. Appreciate you guys being here. Hydra, CTE was in here earlier. Beeb was also in here earlier. Sigma, always appreciate you guys, and Savage, I very much appreciate that comment that you just left. Um, Always appreciate the support, guys. Thank you much for being here. We are very blessed to have you guys hanging out with us. As I said, the content will still be coming out. So keep your eyes on youtube.com/@Yama Show. And Chase, I know that you can tell them where they can find you and your great content as well.
Obviously, we're going to be streaming the UFC when they come back every Saturday, and then one every Friday morning that they have a card on youtube.com/@CP Smalls. And of course, make sure you are there. And if Thinker has ever got you guys thinking about watching a new video, he's got a good channel. He's got a good channel full of a lot of them. And I'm telling you, I watch those a lot of different times. One mainly that I tell you is one of my favorites. There is a Yama episode about the Atlantic City UFC card. It is very, very good. You just check it out, guys. I'm telling you, it's
Appreciate
good.
it. Thank you very much, Chase. Yes, I got another one in the works. Didn't have the schedule that I was hoping to get it out, but trust that there's going to be something coming out this week. So keep an eye out for that. And as always, we appreciate you guys. So have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week, and as always, everybody, fight on.